right now.
All right, we will now call the meeting to order at 5:33. As a reminder, if you'd like to speak before the council tonight, please complete a blue speaker request form and give it to the clerk prior to the item. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lorrimore,
Here.
Councilmember Rigby,
Here.
Councilmember Tassari,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao,
Here.
Mayor Plott.
Here. All right, we'll now move to item number 3, closed session. And if there's any, would I ask if there's public comments? Is that after closed session? Or is it before, right?
You can ask now.
Is there any public comments for closed session?
No, Mayor.
Okay, seeing that there's none, we'll move to the closed session item. At this time, the council will be recessing to closed session. Ms. Vega, can you please introduce the item?
Yes, we actually have two closed session items this evening. One is a conference with labor negotiators with your representatives, the city manager, and myself with respect to all unrepresented employees, and a conference with legal counsel for anticipated litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9D 2 and 4.
Perfect, thank you. All right, we will now move to close. Okay, we are about to start. We actually just came out of closed session, so Ms. Vega, can you please report the action item during closed session?
There was no reportable action taken.
All right, thank you. We will now proceed to our invocation, and tonight's invocation will be presented by Ronell Tyers from Calvary Chapel, Eastvale. Did I get that right too? Perfect. All right. All right, we will now move to the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilmember Rigby.
Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll now move to additions and revisions. The council may only add an item to the agenda after making a finding that there is a need to take immediate action on the item and that the item came to the attention of the agency subsequent to the posting of the agenda. An action adding an item to the agenda requires a majority vote of the council. Has there been anybody from staff or council that would love to add or revise?
No, Mayor.
Council? Okay. We will now move to item number 8, presentations and announcements. So we are on 8.1, we're going to do a proclamation for the National Future Business Leaders of America. It's the Phi Beta Lambda Week. And Ms. Sanika and your team, if you can both come to the podium and join us up here up front, and then we'll go down as well and present them with a proclamation. Bring the whole team up. So the City of Eastville is pleased to proclaim February 10th through the 14th, 2020 as Future Business Leaders of America Week. Future Business Leaders of America is a nonprofit educational organization whose first chapter was established in Johnson City, Tennessee in 1942. The organization is dedicated to bringing business and education together in positive working relationships through innovative leadership and career development programs. Members of this group perform community service activities and strive to build a student's understanding of the realities of the modern business world. I present this proclamation to the Eleanor Roosevelt High School Future Business Leaders of America chapter and thank them for continuing to develop leadership skills in students today. So if you like, I'm always willing to give you the mic and take over and kind of go in more detail about your group. So I think you can kind of get the word out to everyone here that's listening, and then we'll take pictures after with that proclamation.
We are the Future Business Leaders of America of Eleanor Roosevelt High School. And this past weekend, we participated in Inland Section Leadership Conference. We had 37 members go, and 14 of us placed and qualified for state. So in April, we will be representing Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Eastville, California at the state competition in Ontario, California.
All right, kind of building off of the issue in our community nowadays, because of technology, there's a lack of communication between people face to face and everything's through digitally. So I think FBLA conferences like the section and state conference is a great opportunity for people to interact and network with other people while being in contact with them physically rather than just doing it. So I think it's an important issue that we need to address and face head on.
Thank you for your continuous support, and we hope that you help support us. Thank you.
I'll present you with this. You all will get a kind of a group picture.
We did maybe sideways, and sideways, maybe make 2 rows.
Sorry, I'm like falling over here. You're good. Yeah, thank you for coming out and sharing that. You know, it's important that we recognize all business leaders, whether adult, right, youth, soon to be adults. And it's nice to know that we have students, residents here in Eastville, that the future looks very bright. So we appreciate you and we're glad you're being recognized for all your talent. So thank you again. All right, we'll now move to item 8.2, the American Legion Norco Eastville Post 328 proclamation or presentation, sorry. It's a presentation from American Legion Norco Eastville by Commander of American Legion in Norco, Bob Stifler. Would you like to provide us with your report?
Thank you. I'm getting old, I need glasses. My name is Bob Stifler. I'm the commander of the Norco American Legion, Post 328. The post is located at the corner of 6th Street and Hamner in Norco. This is my 3rd term as commander. I'm also a 17-year resident of Eastville. I retired from the U.S. Army after serving 21 years. 14 of those years were spent overseas, Korea, Germany, Hawaii. I'm here to talk to you about why veterans of Eastville should join the American Legion. I'd like to first give you a little history. The American Legion was founded in 1919 in Paris, France. We became a post in 1929. The post is made up of 4 units: the Legionnaires, the Sons of the American Legion, the American Legion Riders, and the Ladies Auxiliary. An offshoot of the Legionnaire group is the 40 and 8. The 40 and 8 is a group of elite members who must be invited in to voted on unanimously in order to become a member. What are the requirements to join the Legion? To become a Legionnaire, you must be a veteran with an honorable discharge. To become a Sons sons either of your parents or grandparents must have been a vet. To join the auxiliary, your spouse, parent, or grandparent must have been a vet. For the riders, you can be a veteran or a member of the Sons of the Auxiliary. The riders are easily recognized as they are the ones you see on the motorcycles. Let me tell you what we do for the community, and I'll try to go through this and skip some of it, but we have what we call the Boys State and Girls State, and you all up there might be interested in this. We send 8 boys and girls to the state capitol every year for 1 week. During that week, they, from the governor all the way down, they assume the positions and they run the state for that week. What a great opportunity. Everyone that comes back from it loves it. What an education for those to get exposed to what government is all about. It reminded me of my high school class in civics. Children's Christmas parties and Easter parties open to anyone in the community, which is always a great, great showing. Thanksgiving dinner, we serve over 200 free dinners every year, all paid for by the donations in American Legion. Christmas family, we select a family within the community and make their Christmas very bearable for them and happy. Clothing drives for the needy, collecting school supplies for local schools and scholarships. Scholarships, we give scholarships throughout all the local high schools upon graduation going to college. Nurses and training scholarships to Cal Baptist universities. We give out 6 of them every year to veterans' children that are attending college. Boy Scouts, we sponsor usually Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts every year. For the vets, monthly visits to the VA hospital in Loma Linda. Bring vets from the VA home to the Legion for dinner and gifts. Riders, Honors Guard processions to the National Cemetery for our deceased vets. Wheelchair program, which we just started back up in connection with the Fisher House, which is going to help us support this. And we will service all vets pretty much in Southern California out of the Norco post. We're talking about the electric wheelchairs, not just the push ones. Some of those chairs go up to $80,000 for one. If it's the total handicap you've seen on TV where the guy has to do everything with his mouth and stuff, they run $80,000. The flag retirement. We have a bin out there that everyone comes and puts the flags in it, in the bin. And once or twice a year, as it gets full, we have a ceremony and destroy the flags. How do we fund these programs? Just this past summer, we had the 100th birthday party and fundraiser of the American Legion. We have the Army-Navy birthday fundraiser, the Navy-Marine birthday fundraiser, New Year's Eve party, Super Bowl party, 4th of July celebration, bingo, Munko, weekly breakfasts, lunch, and dinner, and of course, donations. Now that you know a little bit about the American Legion, I would ask you as members of the Eastville City Council to help get the word out there to our veterans so you can open doors and avenues that I can't. So I'm asking you for your help. I would like to say that the Norco American Legion is probably one of the nicest American Legion I've been in, and we're one of the largest, second largest in our area. Only Palm Springs is larger than us. But like every organization, you grow or you die. But I think the biggest part about inviting the veterans from Eastville, if you're not a member of the American Legion or the VFW, you're missing out. All those people that you can come in and relate to are there. It's not only a place for cheap drinks. We do so much more within the community and for veterans. Thank you for your time and thank you for the invitation. I also have, if you're interested, I also have applications with me if anybody wants to sign up after this motivational speech.
Thank you, Mr. Sittler. You may need to stay up real quick. Is there any questions for Mr. Stifler? Councilmember Rigby?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. Thank you for all that you do, thank you for your service, thank you for all that you do for our community, we truly appreciate it.
Councilmember Desari?
Yeah, I think Mr. Bootsma would like one of those applications.
I wouldn't expect anything less. I wouldn't expect anything less. Yeah, actually, I do have one question, and I don't know if you have an answer to it, because your obviously question is how we can help. Is there someone within your organization that handles, as far as your public outreach, your either social media content, or just getting the word out? Do you have anybody that's kind of in charge of that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We have, we have volunteers that do a little bit of everything, and we do have people that can do
Yeah.
it.
So maybe what I want to ask is maybe for our communications department, maybe we can link up with someone to kind of maybe do some recurring posts through our outlets, and maybe that's how we can help kind of get the word out, is doing that through some of our social media outlets to help out. So, yeah. Ike runs a great social media, so I know if he's running it, we got a good opportunity to get others out there.
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask, in the past, we've never been invited, the American Legion, we've never been invited to any of the Eastville veterans things that go on. We would like to be invited.
Can you go, sorry, can you go to the microphone, because it's all recorded.
I'd said in the past, you know, we're only right up the road here. We've never been invited to any of the functions for veterans. We'd be more than glad, you know, to participate and let the other veterans in Eastville know that we're here. So if anybody has contacts, when the next time you have a veterans, anything for veterans going on, let us know, and I'll be there for sure, but we'll try to have somebody show up. I want to be recognized as someday, my dream, Norco and Eastville American Legion. That's my dream. And the way we're growing, and I have 5 people on my cabinet. 2 of them are from Eastville and myself, so that's 3 out of 5. So we do have representation here.
No, that's perfect. Brian, can we make, yeah, I'm sorry, Councilmember Lorimore.
First of all, I want to repeat my colleagues' comments. Thank you for your service and your continued service through the American Legion. Thank you for your presentation. I really liked the part about the having a place to retire American flags. I've received questions about that, and I'm not aware of a place in town. So having it right there is a great service, particularly with the winds that we have that come through here, and that sun that beats down. So that is great. Also, for the events that we have, certainly not intentional for the veterans events, open invitation, come on out. That's why we're doing these things. We'd love to have you there, and city staff, I'm sure, will be in contact with you on that. And there was something else. Oh, yes. I like your vision about having the American Legion with both the city names, but in that Eastvale comes first in the alphabet, I think it should be Eastville. So, great vision.
Eastville South?
Or you could, we'll accept that as well.
My wife's the original member of this city council, so their president always says Eastville South. I don't know if that's a joke with him or what, but.
As a commander, I can imagine you can pull that, I'm sure. We thank you. Yeah, we will make sure that in any of our ceremonies that our city staff will connect, so maybe if we can put them in contact, we'll make sure that does not happen again, that you're always there at our ceremonies. And I apologize for any reason why that wouldn't have happened, but it will happen from here on out.
It's probably, I should have made myself available sooner. So anyhow, thank you, Mayor, for the invitation. I appreciate it, and I hope you all got some information that would be helpful in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Stifler.
Mayor, I was a recipient of the American Legion Boys State 20 plus years ago, and it was a great experience up in Sacramento. So all the high school students here, the Boy State and Girl State is an amazing experience up in Sacramento.
We will now move to item number 9, public comments. Any member of the public may address the council on items within the council's subject matter jurisdiction, but which are not listed on this agenda during public comments. However, no action may be taken on matters that are not part of the posted agenda. We request comments made on the agenda be made at the time the item is considered and that comments be limited to 3 minutes per person. Please address your comments to the council as a whole and do not engage in dialogue with individual council members, city staff, or members of the audience. City Clerk, is there, how many public comment cards do we have tonight?
We have a total of 13 comment cards. The first one is for Ike Bootsma.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. I have one request is on Schleichman Avenue, to finish widening that street, even if we have to use eminent domain on a section of it by Eastville Elementary, to really get that street done because it's such a heavy traveled street, and it seems like, it's about time to really move forward, even if we have to use eminent domain. I've never been for that, but it seems like the person really doesn't want to sell. And also, I would like to look into, again, buying that property, because I think it would be an ideal place for the city hall, library, with all the schools right around it. And also, the Norco School District said they would donate some money if we could use right next to Eastville Elementary as a drop-off for students where the kids wouldn't have to cross the street, and it would take traffic off of Scholar Way, which has been a problem. I know he wants more money than their appraised value. I just was wondering if there was any way we could still work with it. And that way we'd keep Hamner Place as all retail commercial and bring in tax revenue for the city. I think it would be a good investment for that horse property. I don't know what we can do because he wants more than appraised value, but it'd be something that we may be able to look into, and the school district offered to pay some money for it, and I think for a safety issue, it would make an ideal piece of property for the city of Eastville. Thank you.
Thank you, Ike.
Next speaker is Thomas Furr.
Hello, I just wanted to start by saying that I believe you guys have done a great job with the city. I've lived here for about 7 years, and I think it's like there's been a lot of accomplishments, and I think it's been really good. What I do want to say though is recently they had closed well, I'm from Eleanor Roosevelt High School. I'm a senior right now, and this year I have noticed that they have closed the Estancia neighborhood for students to go through there to get into the parking lot. And I think that's fine. I understand the reasoning for the neighbors and how the traffic prevents them from getting to work in the morning. But I do think that with the strict policies the school has to get on time and how they enforce it, I think there should be another entrance to the parking lot, so then students don't have to leave 30 minutes, even though they live 5 minutes away from the school, to get there on time. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Sarah Land.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilmen, and fellow residents of Eastville. I'm a senior at Eleanor Roosevelt High School, and I'm here to address the recent closing of also the Estancia neighborhoods. Now, I have lived in Eastville for 16 years, which is most of my life. I've gone to school here, I've grown up here, and this is the place that I call home. However, now as a recent teen driver, I've come face to face with the problems entering the school back parking lot much more often now. I used to use the Estancia neighborhoods because I lived 10 minutes away from school, and that allowed me to get to school on time. But now I have to leave over 50 minutes before school starts just to get to school on time. Now, I understand the reasonings why you guys closed this neighborhood. I know that the parents were complaining and the neighbors were complaining that the children were using this neighborhood as a quote-unquote racetrack to get to school while speeding and just being quote-unquote bad drivers. However, that's not all of us.
All of us are just trying to get to school on time without having to leave before 6 o'clock. Now, I hope that you guys take into consideration the students' perspectives and the students' point of view, that we don't want to have to leave earlier than we need to. And as my fellow peers said, the school is not very lenient on their tardy policy. I understand that the parents have been very, very mad, and trust me, I know I have people who live in that neighborhood too. But I just urge you guys to consider and think about the students, what we have to say, because even though we're not as important as homeowners, we're still members of this society and we're still members of this residence. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Next speaker is Bill Elliott.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Bill Elliott. We live at 12846 Westport Circle. We've been residents here for 13 years. And about a month ago, things changed in our area. May I approach the council members?
Yes, you may.
We have an Airbnb straight across the street from where we live. I call it Motel 6. My hours are kind of flexible. A lot of times I'll come home at 1, 2 in the morning. Sometimes I'm gone for up to 13 days. Came home, found out that the people across the street were having a party. Short while later, 3 sheriffs pulled up. And you should have seen, 200 to 300 kids come out of the backyard in the front of the house. And one kid even challenged the sheriff. And the sheriff looked over and said, "I see you're out of tags. Do you really want to challenge me?" These kids were belligerent. That's just the mess that they left behind. The shed you see, the door was open, the gate was open. I went back and I took photographs. And in the shed was a porta potty. The people that lived there before, Dean and Christina, they would not have a porta potty in their shed. Why there's one there, I have no idea. These are pictures of last week. These kids arrived on a Friday. They left Saturday morning, but they left their cars behind. And they were there until Monday morning. They took up the street of Carolinas and Westport. And it was hard to find a parking place. We spoke before the council. Desi, may I take you 3 minutes?
Can you make sure that there's a blue card? If you haven't already filled out, can you make sure you fill out that blue card?
She did.
Okay, thank you.
We came before the council about a year ago with the Walmart hearings. We complained about this one house that threw parties. Called the sheriff, and sometimes they show up in 15, 20 minutes. Other times they don't show up until 4 or 5 hours later. As soon as they leave, as soon as they leave, the music goes back up again. Now the parties have been coming down, but they still take up a lot of space, and sometimes in the middle of the day, they're playing their music rather loud. And last year, my wife had cancer. She had cancer in 2012. They don't care. She's going in for a back operation on her back and on her stomach so they can get to the spine. That's probably about the time they turn the music up. She can't sleep. They parked in front of the and mailboxes. I have a neighbor, he can't get his mail sometimes because mail truck goes right by his house. They don't stop at his mailbox because they don't get out of their car. So he has to run down to Corona and now it's Norco to pick up his mail. That's not right for a family to you don't want to say anything to them because you don't want to get your car keyed. Now these Motel 6s, they're coming into Eastvale. And my understanding is this money that is being paid cash for a house is dirty money. They're laundering. We've got to put a stop to this. Because we moved here 13 years ago because we heard Eastvale is safe. And at one time, about 5 years ago, Eastvale was the #1 mid-sized city in California. #5 in the U.S. for being safe. And I think it's going downhill. One parting thought. I do not want you to think about this when you go home. I don't want you to think about it when you're going to bed. How are you going to feel if there's a Motel 6 across the street from you? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Next speaker is Hani Hadadin.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm his neighbor, and I live next door to Airbnb. I've been living in Eastville since 2005, and now I have a problem getting my mail. And every 2 or 3 days, there's a car, parked in front of the mailbox, and it's hard to get my mail. Plus the partying, and they throw cans at the other side of the house, and so it's something not right. So that's my issue now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Andrew Nabor.
Hello, Mayor, Council, and staff. What I'd like to address is the more recent sightings of animals, usually dead animals, along Archibald and Chandler. On my walks home from school and sometimes bikes home, I would sometimes see them in the road and sidewalks, usually on my way through Archibald, which is near Ronald Reagan. I'd see these raccoons, skunks, and rats just in the streets dead. And I would see that it's a problem, that it'll be harder to solve, but I see it a problem nevertheless. That's it. Thank you.
I'll just make one quick comment. That if you do see that, you can utilize the eCitizen app that we have. And if Aunt Johnny, you could probably show them how to answer it through the eCitizen app if you want to report it. It's a very effective way to address issues. Same thing with Airbnbs as well, too.
Next speaker is Betty Wu.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman, city staff, and the public. I would like to take this opportunity to express my concerns in regards to the meeting minutes on last council's meeting. That was on the appeal of the Chevron gas station. The fact is 5 residents, or at least 4 of 5 residents, explicitly spoke in opposition rather than just express of concerns. So the minute has discrepancies in that. I would like to request that the opposition word is actually added into the meeting minute to reflect the truth. And also the opposition petition signed by 180 plus residents was submitted in the meeting, but was not included in the meeting minutes also. I can say I witnessed a great disappointment of last meeting by witnessing the 3 out of 2 approval votes from the councilman. I would like to remind you that you are elected officials and you should not actually completely ignore the residents' opposition. Should at least continue to discuss these items instead of just lightly approve it. Lastly, since I noticed that the south curb of the Hamner Place for the gasoline station, the south curb for the gasoline station has been realigned since the original design because of the public, whatever once the closure of the freeway entrance. So they moved the south. So now, if without large trees, I will be forced to viewing the site of the gasoline station when I step out of my front entrance or in my driveway. So I would like to request also supersized specimen trees installed on south and west corner of the Chevron gas station to shield off the signs and lightings for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty.
Next speaker is Mia Nagar.
Good evening, Mayor and other members. As someone who lives in Eastvale, I noticed a recent issue regarding there has been an increase in mosquitoes near the river. I think near the edge of Eastvale, there's like a bridge. And there has been a lot of stray animals that end up getting hit by cars, leading to a bunch of dead animals on the road. I don't know what else to say about it, other than it's been a struggle having to drive around the animals, and my family has been complaining about getting bit several times. Other than that, I think you're doing a great job in what you do. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments, Amia.
Clarifying.
Yeah.
Clarifying
Councilmember Lorimer.
question before you go. Which part of town, cross street?
It's near Badger Lane and
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
And again, to just kind of repeat, for seeing the dead animals, you can utilize the eCitizen app, and Johnny back there can show you, if you don't have it on your phone, Johnny can show you how to access that. It's very user-friendly.
Next speaker is Alex Moran.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm also here regarding the Airbnb. I'm a neighbor right next door. Like Bill said, about 2 weeks ago, we had a bunch of kids show up. I'm talking about teenagers, okay? My concern there is, they got alcohol. They leave the residence. They can get into an accident, kill somebody. That's my concern. And the other thing is, they're playing loud music. One of the people that was there kind of tailgated my son, didn't know that my son was coming to the same place that they were having the party. The young lady got off, started threatening my son, my son's like, why you tailgating me? I'm not tailgating, you're the one chasing me. So anyways, that's when my son said, relax, I'm gonna call the sheriffs, which he did. They came down, you know, he says, we're gonna stay here and kind of surveillance to make sure that, you know, it's calm, nothing, you know, happens. And that's, you know, my concern. You know, we're peaceful people there. It's a nice community. It's nice and quiet. And that's how we want to keep it. You know, with this Airbnb people showing up, we don't know who comes over, you know, or you know, what they're going to do. So that's our concern right now is this Airbnb just popped up. We're seeing people come in and out. There's no places to park sometimes. They double park. If I have an emergency at 1, 2 in the morning and they're blocking my driveway, I can't get out, you know? So those are concerns. And we're going to keep coming to every meeting so that we can make sure that at least it stops in our neighborhood. You know, that's why we're here, to voice our voice. So thank you.
Thank you. Actually, a quick question from Johnny. Johnny, is this the first time that we're hearing of this, or has there been a complaint about this particular Airbnb site?
I looked at the address that was written on the pictures, and I don't have a previous case on it. So I do want to encourage you to report it to our department, and I'll make sure you get business cards.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next speaker is Michael O'Connor, and he has time donated from Oscar Mora, so he'll get 6 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, and City staff. Before I begin, I want to just do a shout out to a lot of the younger people that are here tonight giving comments. I think that's very commendable, and I want to encourage them to continue to do that because I know our council does listen to you. What I'm here to talk about tonight is basically I want to stress again that process is very important. And I've seen some questionable processes regarding our streets, including, for example, additional stop signs that went up. And that came up as a budget overrun, but that was not something that was run by the Public Safety Commission or you as a council. And, you know, changes that we're making to our streets and how things work, as you've heard tonight and other nights, is very important. I think that we need to make sure that we don't have a lack of engineering and review of what we're doing, because we could have unexpected results or bad results and a lack of community trust in what we're actually doing. Last week, there was a first step in trying to get additional community feedback, which was the meeting about the 65th Street process. And one of the things that was very notable in that meeting was that the city engineer made an admission that 68th Street, they missed the mark. There was an error in that. He actually stated that publicly. Another thing that was very notable about that meeting is that a majority of the Public Safety Commission was at that meeting. There were at least 3 people. And they said that this had never come before them. So they were kind of concerned about that. So with those things said, what I want to do is read a news article to you that you may or may not have seen. It's very timely, very relevant. It was in Thursday's edition of the Press Enterprise. A jury, Thursday, February 6th, awarded $25.6 million to the family of a Hemet High School student severely injured when he was struck by a truck in a crosswalk. The family of Nick Toussaint sued the city and the driver accused of striking him in September of 2017. 6 months earlier, the then 16-year-old was hit by a pickup while in a crosswalk near West Valley High School. Toussaint spent 30 days in a coma and was hospitalized for months. He was in therapy for more than a year, learning how to speak and walk again. According to his family, as of September 2017, they incurred more than $500,000 in medical bills. In a written statement Thursday afternoon, Ryan Saba, one of Toussaint's attorneys, said he was very pleased with the jury's decision to compensate Mr. Toussaint for his injuries and sees it as a positive step towards ensuring the neighborhood is safe for everyone. On the morning of March 24, 2017, Toussaint was crossing Mustang Way on his way to school when police said a Dodge Dakota driven by Joseph Gervais, then 71, struck him. The crosswalk was installed in 2012, after 6 teens were struck at the location over a 4-year period, according to the lawsuit. The crosswalk includes flashing lights on 2 posts under crosswalk signs and lights embedded in the ground, but without a stop sign or traffic signal. According to city officials, that's because the crosswalk, located at a 3-way intersection between a housing tract to the north and the school to the south, is too close to the traffic signal at Sanderson Avenue and would likely cause traffic to back up there. The lawsuit alleged the city put the cart before the horse and failed to do a proper engineering investigation or evaluation before installing the crosswalk at the site. In an emailed statement sent Friday, Hemet City Manager Christopher Lopez said, quote, "The city is deeply saddened by this unfortunate accident," end quote, and wish Toussaint and the family the best in his recovery. City officials are discussing their next legal steps. Even though the jury has issued a verdict, the cause of the accident is still a matter of dispute, Lopez wrote. Encouraging safety for pedestrians and drivers and improving enforcement of safety measures continues to be top priority of the city. In its response to the lawsuit, the city of Hemet said it was not liable for Toussaint's injuries and that an accident on public property is not evidence that the property was in dangerous condition at the time. A Hemet Unified School District official reportedly expressed concerns to city officials about the location of the planned crosswalk in March 2012, 8 months before it was installed. 9 teens besides Toussaint have been struck by vehicles in the crosswalk between 2007 and 2018, according to the lawsuit. The suit alleged the city of Hemet was negligent and failed to address a known dangerous intersection, resulting in the car crash that caused him significant brain and orthopedic injuries. Attorney Robert Caron, who also represented the Toussaint family, said in a written statement that he hopes Hemet takes the verdict into account when designing the future of city streets and that changes are made as a result of this trial. So again, process matters, solid engineering matters. We need to make sure that things are done properly. I would hate to see a young person in our city go through something like this. First and foremost, I also would hate to have us on the bill for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Next speaker is Juan Carew.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, and city members. Okay, imagine this. Your child is walking home from school on a normal day, and they've reached a stoplight. It's their turn to cross, and they cross the street. But out of nowhere, bam, a car strikes them, and they die on the spot. This actually happened to one of my cousins when he was only 16 years old. He was coming home from school, and he was biking home, and it was his turn to cross. Now, the cement truck was like, "I think I can make it from this yellow light." He did not make it, neither did my 16-year-old cousin. And so I was given an opportunity at school. I go to Eastville STEM Academy, and I was given an opportunity there for this year's science fair project to make a device to stop this type of problem. And so I did make a device. Now, the way that it works is there's 2 lasers and 2 photoresistors on the other side of the road. Now, once the first beam is broken, then it starts a timer, and it ends the timer when the second beam is broken. This takes the time and it compares it to a time that I have set in the program already. If we install these types of devices in the city, I promise you it'll work. It works very efficiently and it's very easy to install. While making this device, I kept in mind the cost efficiency, and it's very cost efficient. And so that's why I came here, because I wanted to see if there was any city members or anyone in the public who are engineers who can help me further this project and hopefully implement it in the city if approved. Thank you.
There is an engineer in the audience. There's a couple of them. There's a couple of them. Well, first off, really impressed
Thank
with your public comment. Second of all, Johnny, don't ever put lasers towards me. Shoot them towards that way. You know? Brian, you wanna step up to the plate here?
I'd be happy to connect you with our engineering team and evaluate this. We do have sensors out at traffic signals in the community, but we'd love to see what your idea is and see if it's more effective or more cost effective or than what we're using. So
Yeah.
so it'd be a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lauren,
Is that ready to go? Is there a demonstration possible, or? Oh.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I know we aren't really to ask questions, and I'm not gonna ask questions, I'm just gonna make a comment. This is amazing. When we were younger, we had science experiments of getting volcano to work with baking soda and
Sorry. Okay. So basically right now I have the time set to 0.75 seconds, but the lasers are kind of like, they're dimming right now because they're almost dead. So that's why it's making that sound. But because that was too fast. And so this is how it takes the speed. I wanted it to compare the speed, the time of the distance from the pedestrian and the time needed to stop. And so this is based off of the distance of the device and the speed that it takes from this.
So are you still in the science
I,
fair
I,
competition?
hey, can I ask for a favor? Would you be willing to bring it back, get it all kind of calibrated, battery charged up, and? All right, let's do that. Would you be good with that? You guys okay with that here again? Future, oh yeah.
Also, I just want to take
You wanna
credit
make
for
it?
this because she's my neighbor and I
Oh,
invited her here.
Well, then you gotta take it. All right. Let's bring it back and let's get her connected with our engineers. I think it'd be a good idea.
And hopefully you
Awesome.
can show us your first place finish from the science fair.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Just grab the table.
All right, Mark, we'll go to the next public comment.
Last speaker is Corey Heath.
You gotta follow that one.
Yeah, that's kind of tough to follow.
Corey.
I have a speech, that's about it.
That'll work, that'll be perfect.
All right, so my name is Corey Heath. I'm a senior and I attend Roosevelt High School. So going to school, I go down Sumner towards the school. Without traffic, I could get to school in a few minutes. However, in the morning, I have to leave my house at 7 o'clock to be on time when the bell rings 40 minutes later at school. There are a couple reasons that I believe are causing this traffic jam. The intersection at 68th and Sumner has a new four-way stop sign, and I believe that creates the first backup. I understand that the city saw a need for a crosswalk for pedestrians, but in the few months that the sign has been up, I have not seen a single person use the crosswalk. So I believe it's just an unnecessary stop that we are needing to make. The second reason that I believe contributes to the traffic issue is the newly painted lines in the Estancia neighborhood. Before they were painted to a left turn only and a right turn only, I used to go straight into the student parking lot, but now it backs up Citrus. So there's parents, teachers, and students all trying to get to school. And I've been at the light on Sumner and Citrus trying to turn left, but all of the cars are backed up, and so I've seen the light turn green and then go to red before I could even get a chance to turn. And speaking on behalf of my friend who lives in the Estancia neighborhood, before he would get to school in like 2 minutes tops, but now he has to come out of the neighborhood down Citrus and is sometimes even late to school. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
No more comment cards.
All right, thank you for all those comments, and we also appreciate, a lot of our youth coming out and making, like, kind of what Michael had echoed, our youth coming out making comments as well. We appreciate all the input that's out there, so thank you. We'll now move to item 10, consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered routine and are to be approved with one motion unless a council member, staff member, or a member of the public requests separate action on a specific item. Mark, has there been any Eastville staff member or anybody, members from the public that have requested to pull an item?
No, Mayor. We just had the prior comments about.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Then we'll just make it official. Does any councilman want to pull an
Mr.
item?
Mayor, if we can go ahead and pull item 10.1 for further discussion.
Second.
No, 10.1.
10.1.
Council meeting minutes.
Okay, wait, I sorry, I haven't switched on my item. Okay.
I'd like to move the balance.
Second.
Councilmember Lorimore,
Aye.
Councilmember Rigby,
Aye.
Councilmember Tesari,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao,
Aye.
Mayor Plot.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, we will now move to item number 10.1.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I don't think we need a staff presentation on this. I just have a quick question.
That'll work.
On, under 10.1, and this is kind of for staff, I guess the city clerk's office, on item number 11.1, as was referred to in the public comment today, there were some individuals that were, I guess you could say opposed to it, and I guess this is also a question for our city attorney. Do we need to document that specific on there, or it is also available in our recording if anyone has specific questions regarding that? What do you recommend on that?
I think it can go either way. Based off of my recollection, at least one of those speakers did more express concern rather than take a formal opposition approach, if my memory served me correctly. But I think the city is fine to approve as expressly stated, and then the audio serves as sort of the formal document that says word for word what was stated.
So to go ahead and approve as current, as it is.
I'm comfortable with that. If you want to change it, that's fine too, but I'm comfortable with it being approved as is.
I would just, I mean, this is just my, I mean, up to my colleagues. I'd recommend we leave it, just because I don't think we want to make any assumptions on these comments that were made. I think we direct people to the audio recording if they want to know specifics.
Councilmember Lorimer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to this discussion, this will be reflected, the comments that were made earlier, can they reflect the comments of the individual that brought this up and put that on record, and we also have the recorded record to reflect the concerns? And that might solve this problem for the next meeting.
The minutes for tonight,
Yes.
that you approve at your next meeting, will also include Ms. Wu's concerns.
Okay, then with that, I would like to move forward, and I'd like to make a motion to approve this item.
Second, if there's no further discussion.
Actually, I wanted to add to that. And I agree with Betty. It's not some cumbersome thing that we're gonna have to do to make that, to add in the notation, right? Mr. Cor- yeah.
If
And then
council
we'll-
wishes to make a change, we can.
Yeah, I mean, there
we
were
can make that change.
several people that I recall that were expressly opposed, and I don't think it hurts anything to note it in the minutes. That's my opinion.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
If I may, just regarding Councilmember Tesari's, I understand the concern. I think that if we do it that way, that we have to, and I don't mean to task the city clerk with more work than needed, but if we're gonna go that way, then we need to make sure that in the audio recording that they are clearly opposed to the project. Because otherwise, I think that we would be making assumptions if we start to put on there that this person was opposed to it or this person was not opposed to it. I think if they don't say that they are strictly opposed, because I know there were a couple that were not strictly voiced that they were opposed to the project. They said they had concerns. So I think if we do change that we do it just to people that specifically said that they were opposed to the project. The other comment regarding this is I think it is and should be duly noted that there was a petition that was shared with the council that evening. But I think it also needs to be noted that if we don't include that petition, that we include that a number of those addresses were not local to this area, that they were not local to this specific project. They were all over the city. There were a number of these that were on a completely different side of the city. So if we're going to include that, I'd recommend that we do include that they weren't residents of this area of this specific project.
Councilmember Lorrimore?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Point of, well, for clarification purposes for myself, items that are included in here, it would these are action items, action oriented as opposed to just individual, for instance, the fact that the, what is being discussed about a petition, it's not action oriented and therefore might not necessarily need to be included in the agenda?
Correct.
Or in
That's the
minutes?
approach to action minutes. And when we write the minutes, we kind of use general terms. So that's why we use the term express concern. It kind of covers a broader range as opposed to a more definite term like opposition. And then we refer them to the official record, which is the recording. That's generally why we do that.
Thank you.
Then can I get a motion? We got a motion. Do we understand what that motion is then? Oh, Mayor Pro Tem, yeah.
Thank you for addressing the first part of the question, but what about the petition part, or did I miss that? So are we including, or typically would we include that information?
It doesn't really have an impact one way or the other. The petition is submitted and it's part of the record. So it doesn't necessarily have to be included in the minutes. If you did include it, I would say at most you would just a quick sentence saying a petition was submitted, period. Because when something like that is submitted at the meeting, you don't have the opportunity to review it, verify any of it. It's just simply that a petition was submitted.
Thank you.
And the time of the petition, that it was submitted that night rather than that it was submitted beforehand, I think is somewhat important to it, right?
Well, at this point, I'm going to stick with my original motion unless somebody has a substitute motion. And the second is still good with seconding the motion.
Are we on a consensus on that motion and second then? Kind of a nod? Okay. Erica, we good on that one?
Yeah, I just was confirming someone seconded the motion.
Okay.
Yes.
Roll call.
And this, just to be clear, it's to approve as is.
Correct.
Councilmember Lorrimore?
Aye.
Councilmember Rigby?
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao?
Yes.
Mayor Plott?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, we will now move to, I lost for a second. Got to move to item 12.1, award a contract to Michael Baker International for Eastville 2040 general plan update. And it will be presented by our very own Gina Gibson.
These must be pretty close. Okay, take those off. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council and members of the audience. Tonight, the City of Eastville is presenting to you the contract award
for Michael Baker International to complete hashtag Eastvale 2040. So what is hashtag Eastvale 2040? Best summarized by journalist Herb Can. A city is not gauged by its length and width, but by the broadness of its vision and the height of its dreams. So we will start to have a conversation about Eastvale 2040 and envisioning our future. Hashtag 2040 is our vision for our future. So why do a long-term vision? There's several reasons. I don't expect for everybody to read those this evening, but some highlights. Eastvale is approaching its 10th year anniversary, and our original general plan that was approved when the city was incorporated highlighted some key items that we needed to begin our tenure as a city. And now it is the time to do the Eastvale 2040 first Eastvale-centered vision. This is the time to leave our thumbprint, if you will, for our future. Key, as the city knows, is our economic development future and making sure that the city in the future development positions us to meet the needs of our residents and businesses now and in the future. And there's also the legal requirement, obligatory, that a long-term future plan, Eastvale 2040, needs to meet our state obligations. So our focus for hashtag Eastvale 2040 is design. We'll be asking questions about land, asking questions about buildings, and asking questions about art. How we get around Eastvale now and later. The sustainability for Eastvale, that's fiscal and environmental. And then fairness, and that's for everybody, all citizens, all residents, all businesses in Eastvale. Eastvale 2040, envision our future. Some key things that we will actually be talking about through our speaker series program. We're going to discover Eastvale's potential, capture Eastvale's imagination, represent your community, and shape Eastvale's expectations. Now, who will help us, which is the subject matter of the staff report this evening, will be community ambassadors, and we want to focus on that first. This Eastvale 2040 long-term plan cannot be done without community ambassadors. So to all of you in the audience and all of those listening to the audio at a future date, we need you. Neighborhood associations, all of the different community groups that we have in the city of Eastvale, and business groups that we have, we will need input there as well. Business owners and all the general public. A grassroots attempt at making sure that we capture what is unique to Eastvale and implementing our vision for the future. So our hashtag Eastvale 2040 team does consist of those that were mentioned on the first slide, they're key, and then combined with city staff, Michael Baker International, PlaceWorks, Susan J. Harden is our going to be heading up our community outreach piece, and then our Clear Vision speaker series. As the council knows, we implemented a request for qualifications so that we would have in-depth ability to do white papers and also vision series out in the community where community members live and work, to be able to capture those ideas and thoughts that we talked about and put them in our hashtag Eastvale 2040 plan. So the council has already allocated the funds, but I just wanted to highlight task numbers 3 and 4, public outreach and education, and the Clear Vision speaker series. So this is us making sure that the document does not sit on the shelf and it's not comprised of persons, 5 or 6 individuals that write a plan that does not apply to our everyday lives. This is taking the information to the people where they live and where they work, and about 1/3 of the budget is dedicated specifically just to public outreach and the Clear Vision speaker series. So you will be seeing lots of opportunities for participation, both through email, pop-up opportunities, speaker series at coffee shops, restaurants, and here at City Hall, in the schools, in the communities, in the churches, on the soccer fields. We would make sure that we get the opinions of those voices that are needed for our future. The recommendation of the staff this evening is to award the contract to Michael Baker International. Michael Baker International, as you know, provides the services for our planning division for the city of Eastvale. But specifically, the Eastvale 2040 long-term vision is a specialty item. This is a long-term vision for our city, and in so doing, they will have staff that we indicated on the slides that are dedicated solely to that purpose. And it will not have an impact on the current and advanced planning services that we offer. There's a separate team that handles that. And in addition to awarding the contract, we would also like to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Michael Baker International, subject to review and approval by the city attorney. Now, PlaceWorks and Michael Baker are, well, actually, Michael Baker is in the audience this evening. And should you have any questions of the consultant team and or staff, we would be more than happy to answer them this evening.
Awesome, Gina. Thank you for that presentation. All right, Mark, has there been any public comments on this item?
Yes, Mayor, we have one comment card from Keith White.
Mr. White, come on. Are you able to come on up, or do we want to? All right.
I want to much today, so I heard.
Yeah, I get it. No, I get it.
I just have a couple of questions. For future, I used to be Petoskey Little League coach for special needs. What about people with those with disabilities? Would that include 2040? What about parks for people who are disabled adults? We have a lot of disabled kids that go to Roseville High School. That's a couple issues. Wheelchair playgrounds, we need to look for our kids who have disabilities. We need to make part of them our community. And I want to see something in the future where we can have a special needs baseball league or softball league for special adults with those disabilities. And those kids had a good time. And I was actually in Little League, a coach for the Angels in Riverside. So that's one of my questions. And that's just mostly my concern. And then also, I would like to see more venue, like more entertainment we can see Eastvale. My roommate is actually promotes bands, so I would like to see if that would be part of the general plan, and that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Gina, or maybe a representative from Michael, or do you want to take a shot at that one, or do we?
Well, absolutely. I think this slide captures it when we say the last bullet point there, when we're speaking about fairness. We're speaking about fairness in all facets, including land use, and we underscore for everybody. We're speaking in general terms this evening, but most definitely those concerns will be addressed. And I do thank you for your comments.
Councilman Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Keith, those are great comments, and especially in being inclusive of everyone within this Eastvale 2040, especially with a lot of, I'm assuming most of you students are from ERHS. This last Monday, they did kind of a kickoff of their baseball season, and one of the things that I thought was very, very impressive is these athletes have been working with these special needs kids. Prior to their game on Monday, they had a baseball game that was for these special needs kids. So the high school is already doing an excellent job in being that example for the city and in including everyone. So just as you talked about Little League doing it, the high school is doing a great job with being inclusive of that. And I'm sure we can continue to evolve that into the entire city, not just the high school. But.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Rigby. We'll now turn to council for discussion. Are there any comments? Councilmember Desari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to piggyback on that, there will be workshops, so you'll get a chance to come in and give your input at those. And the only question I have is, do we know what the cost was the last time we did a general plan?
The last time we did a general plan, we had a pretty significant budget, but the night before that the contract was going to be approved to launch the general plan, the state of California took our VLF funds away from us. And so we restructured our general plan and didn't do as much outreach as we could have, but we had to solidify as a new city having a general plan So we largely did a adoption of the county general plan with some minor modifications to it. But this is going to be the first time that we really do an all-inclusive, fairly extensive community engagement process, because this is what we could have and should have done had the state of California not taken our funds away from us 8 years ago.
Well, thank you for refreshing my recollection. So there was that issue. Thank you.
Councilman Rigby.
Thank you. Going back to the budget, the slide that has all the numbers and the highlighted, I think it's awesome to see, this is more of a comment than a question, but I think it's awesome to see those highlighted areas. It's almost 40% of the overall budget that we're spending on public outreach. So just for everyone here, I know there was a comment made earlier from one of the students that said that you aren't as important. I would disagree. You are very important. You are our future of Eastville. So this is why we're spending almost 40% of our budget to get your input. Everyone here, everyone that listens to this, everyone that does business in our city, that visits our city, that lives in our city, travels through our city, we want to get their input to make sure there's a very successful plan, and that's why we're spending almost 40% of it in reaching out to everyone.
Mayor, if I might just tag on to that with, as Councilmember Rigby alluded to, if you represent a group in Eastville, whether it's 5 people, 10 people, or 100 people, or 1,000 people, we'd like to know who your group is, and you can reach out to Gina or myself or anybody on our planning team, whether it's a soccer team, whether it's Eleanor Roosevelt High School students, because you will be, many of you will have kids by the time this plan is implemented, and we would love to, and you might be council members during this plan implementation, and there's a lot of ways that you could be implemented, or your ideas can be implemented, and your ideas for what you want in a community when you grow up is where we want with this, where we want this plan to look at. So it's very aspirational and inspirational of what do we want and what is missing in our community today. As you alluded to, we don't have accessible parks or accessible leagues, or and we need to be looking at those things and how can we make our community for everyone. So thank you.
Actually, I have one question. As far as the allocation of funding for this, I just want to clarify, and I remember we approved this in the budget. I think I know what it was, but it isn't necessarily clarified exactly. There's a $500,000 payment in this budget that we've approved, and that's out of our general fund, correct? That was.
So yes, there are
There's
monies that are coming from the general fund, but also there are monies that we can utilize from our gas tax. We've also secured funding through a grant opportunity.
And that's the SB2 funding?
Yes. And then there are several other grant opportunities that we're also going to be seeking, so that the impacts to our
So
general
it could
fund
be in the fact where we put $500,000 now in this particular budget, but come next budget, it may be less depending on the grant funding that we would receive.
That's absolutely correct, Mayor.
Very clarified. Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilmember Lorrimore.
Thank you. I'm sorry, sometimes I read and I don't hear, and but was there a section, was it discussed as to timeline for completion of this project?
No, in the agenda report it does. So the actual document of Eastville 2040 would be completed rather quickly in about 4 to 6 months, but the environmental document will be comprehensive. And I might add, we are looking to do an environmental document that will also can be tiered on for things, future development, and say, for example, the Chandler area or the Leo property, et cetera. So that's rather extensive. That could put the timeline out at up to 18 months just for the environmental document.
Let me just piggyback on what she just shared with her. A master EIR that we can tier off of, so not every project in Eastville has to do an expensive environmental assessment or an EIR to get accomplished, which allows development to be streamlined and more business friendly, but also allows developers to be spending their money on good design rather than on environmental assessments. Because if we can do it as a master with the general plan, we can tier off of that and utilize that document to help streamline the very cumbersome and expensive CEQA process.
Okay, quick follow-up. Is that okay? Okay. So for an EIR like that, that can be tiered off of, is it possible to create something that all possible development projects will truly be able to tier off of, or can we even anticipate that in such a way that it's not that it's a great idea, but implementation, when the developer comes forward, it goes out the window? So it is a question.
So, well, I see Erica, so you can take your stab and then I'll answer it from there.
It's kind of hard to answer that question hypothetically. It also really depends on the development that the actual developer is proposing being fully consistent with the general plan that you've adopted and what was analyzed in the master EIR. So if you're running with the assumption that they're proposing something 100% consistent with all cities' general plan policies and everything that was analyzed in the EIR, they could achieve some streamlining and cost savings from it.
There's a number of cities that have done master EIRs, and there's a lot of good lessons learned and experiences in that to create land uses and sizing of land and design criteria, not design criteria, but design parameters in the general plan that allow it to streamline and do a finding of conformity with the general plan. I've seen it very successful in other cities.
I missed that part as well. Well, I appreciate the answer. For the environmental analysis, it's a large portion of the total, but we are for sure, if by going through Michael Baker, going down this path and doing the environmental, or is that a later stage?
They're concurrent.
They're concurrent. Okay. What cities? Because this is something that's new to me. I haven't seen it before. Where has this been beneficial?
So, in my experience, I would say the cities of Norwalk, the cities of Fontana, the cities of Rialto, and the city of Riverside.
All right, excellent. Appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Young.
I actually, before I ask my questions, I was actually gonna say, related to what Councilmember Rigby said, just 8 years ago, I was one of you. Like I was attending city council meetings, except I did not have, frankly, the guts to speak. So I was one of those just sitting quietly at the back. And back then, when I first attended a city council meeting, it was actually Mayor Ike Bootsma back then, and none of this was up here. And so it's, yeah, you never know, like 8 years from now, it could be you. So just putting it out there, and also remember to vote. Election is coming up. But anyway, with that being said, I do have questions about this, specifically looking at the budget, the numbers. I'm looking at public outreach and education. I think it's fantastic that we're focusing on public outreach and education. I think it's crucial because, you know, we could have the best ideas, staff could have the best ideas, but if we're not relaying that information to the public, then an idea will just remain as an idea. So this is great. With that being said, I also know, because we have an item coming up, 12.4, regarding communication department. So how would this work with our existing communication department? Are they essentially taking over the entire outreach, or are we working with the comms department? Like how is this?
So this contract has Susan Harden, one of the best community engagement people leading this effort. This is a special project in itself, and that's why the team put together and brought Susan Harden on to help us with the community engagement. Our communications team will be supporting
Got it.
her, and so will our planning staff and our engineering staff and our city management staff, and the entire city will be supporting this effort. However, she will be significantly leading the communication and community engagement process.
Got it. And then second question, what exactly is a speaker series?
A speaker series is bringing in regional, state, national expertise to allow us to think about our potential in Eastville and what that could look like, and have people come in from both a regional expertise as well as an outside expertise to say, wow, here are opportunities, or here are some challenges, and here are what other people are doing to address challenges. And so, you know, we were a city that was largely developed backwards with our suburbs first, and now we have an opportunity to develop our downtown and our placemaking and a number of other things. And so, you know, there are some fiscal opportunities and challenges that we can address with land uses and design, and safety issues we can do through design. You know, having people come in, much like Urban 3, that came in and talked to us about looking at land values from a per acre versus a per use, and changing the paradigm upside down to help us really understand what our potential is revenue-wise.
And all those will be open to public.
Yes.
We'll have an amazing opportunity for people to participate.
I would append to that. Think of them like pop-up TED Talks over coffee.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking at this slide right here, I know that this item is for the Michael Baker International contract. Looking at the one of the following slides that has the funds and task numbers, it includes Clear Vision, and then obviously Michael Baker. Does that contract also include Susan J. Harden and PlaceWorks?
Yes, it
Okay.
does.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Oh, Councilmember Desari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just I think this was a component of the last general plan, was trying to create this vision and a pathway for developers to be able to more efficiently go through the process. And based on the size of our city, we're very small, and we have some pinpointed, targeted locations that are really ripe for this type of planning. And I'm confident that our team will do a fantastic job making this work, so that it's gonna really benefit the city of Eastvale in the future. So just to make you feel a little more confident there, Councilman.
I'll piggyback on that with the remaining, whatever, I think it's 15% of that land. It is very crucial how we maximize and utilize that land. I mean, extremely crucial for our city and the sustainability of our city from here on out. Looks like we are done with council discussion, so at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion in a second. Or are we good on that so far? Okay. I'd like to ask for a motion in a second.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Councilmember Lorimore?
Aye.
Councilmember Rigby?
Aye.
Councilmember Tesari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao?
Yes.
Mayor Plon?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 12.2, update from.
Hold on one second.
Before we do that,
Yes.
I'd just like to
Yes,
thank you.
I apologize. I jumped the gun. I know what
No.
you're going to present now, and I apologize. Wow. Yeah,
Not
this is a
a
big deal.
problem. I would like to thank you for kicking off officially our first Eastville hashtag 2040. Just let the audience know if you have comments or questions, or you want to help, we need that. Email us at 2040@eastvelleca.gov. We have obtained that special email address just for Eastville 2040, and we want to take our first opportunity to put the Eastville 2040 on social media. So at the dais behind your water, you should have some T-shirts. And if I might have the members of the City of Eastville staff bring in the rest of the items. Oh, they're already here. All right. So the members of the audience, if you would please do partake of getting a T-shirt from the back. Stephanie, raise your hand. Johnny, raise your hand. Miguel, raise your hand. Kimberly, raise your hand. You want to go, please go back, take a t-shirt, put the t-shirt on. Please, we will also be taking a photograph and we will be posting that online as our first official act of Eastvale 2040.
You know,
Thank
I
you.
just had a funny thought for a minute. It was a bold move. What if it didn't get approved? Would we still be wearing the shirts? Just a thought. Hey guys, we'll just take a 5-minute recess to get that picture, and then we'll come back. All right, we will now move. I want to catch you all off guard here. Okay, there we are. Okay. We'll now move to item 12.2, update from strategic plan review and workshop. And this item will be presented by Crystal Adams.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, members of the public. I'm Crystal Adams, Senior Management Analyst. Today I'm here to provide an update from the strategic plan review and workshop that we held on January 8th, 2020. Quick recap of the timeline. The initial strategic plan workshop was held on August 24th, 2018, and ultimately adopted by council on November 14th, 2018. Subsequently, there have been 4 quarterly updates provided to council, and a check-in review workshop was conducted on January 8th of this year. At the January 8th meeting, staff recapped the goals that had been accomplished for the 6 strategic plan targets: communication, community engagement, public safety, economic development, organizational development, finance, budget, and infrastructure. Based on the feedback received at the workshop, we have some new goals and objectives. They have been separated by target, not by priority, and will stand alone as a priority update to the strategic plan. Target 1, community and community engagement, new goals 13 and 14. To enhance relationships with agency partners and legislators, and to host an Eastvale Leadership Academy. Please note this was previously included as an action item for Target 2, Goal 3, which is public safety, increasing community connectivity. Target 2, public safety, new goals 7 and 8. First, to partner with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. This was previously included as a goal under Target 2, public safety. Goal 4, enhancing traffic safety enforcement education. This has now been pulled out as a separate goal. Goal 8 is to build a substation in Eastvale. Target 3, economic development. Goal 13, to establish an independent zip code for the city of Eastvale. Target 5, finance budget. New goal number 6, to evaluate the city's franchise agreements. This was previously an action included in Target 5, Goal 5, identify additional revenue opportunities. This is now its own goal.
And technically, it should be negotiate the franchise agreements, but the evaluation is part of that.
Target 6, infrastructure. Goals 4, 5, and 6, build a library in Eastvale, create a walkable community, and create appealing signage and landscaping at entry and exit points in the city to welcome residents and guests to Eastvale. Today's requested action is to approve the updated timeframe for the recommended action in the strategic plan, and to amend the strategic plan to include these new proposed initiatives from the strategic plan review and workshop held on January 8th, 2020. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Crystal, for another awesome update. All right, we will now turn to Mark for if there's any public comments on this.
No comment cards, Mayor.
All right, and I'll turn to council for discussion. All right, Councilmember Howard, I was gonna say, sorry, Councilmember Rigby, sorry.
We have these buttons up here that turn our mic on, and like all of us are like, okay, who's gonna push it? Who's gonna push it? So that's what we were laughing at. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you for this. This is awesome. Every time we talk about this, I love talking about the strategic plan and that we have it and that it's a living document. There's 2 things that I just wanted to bring up and see if it's part of this or what we, if we can add it or where we're at. But regarding infrastructure, I know we talked about funding for 2 different areas. One being the Limonite Bridge, and not necessarily building or doing it, but I think it's important that we start the looking for funding for that, as well as funding for, this is one that I did bring up. I don't know what my colleagues can position or if I could get a consensus, but it is regarding the landscaping and potential starting to get funding for County Galliano. When that was done, there was no funding there. Would that fall under this, under landscaping? Okay, okay, good, thank you.
We would consider that interchange a gateway to the city.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm good as well on comments, so if seeing that there's no comments and we're gonna move forward with these new additions and goals, we'd like to solicit a motion in a second.
I'll move approval. Mayor, would you like to add the Limonite extension to this and pull it out as a specific thing?
Yeah, I actually, if we can consensus on that or thoughts.
I would like to include it, and I think our assumption, I don't know if there's a consensus among the council, but I thought it was included already. If it's not, I think it is important.
We can pull it
that
out
we
as
do.
one of the key priorities, just like the library and the substation.
Okay, yeah, I would propose that because we do know that developers are buying up our land and they're ready to build. I would imagine that piece of property over some time, over the near future, may be developed, and I would hate for us to have that property developed and us not be ready to fund it. So if we could start.
Yes, we
I
can
would
add that.
amend my motion to include that condition.
Okay.
And I would,
Second.
Councilmember Lorimore?
Aye.
Councilmember Rigby?
aye.
Councilmember Tesari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao?
Yes.
Mayor Plot?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We'll now move to item 12.3, City of Eastville's Pilot Leadership Academy. And again, this will be presented by Crystal Adams.
Thank you. Hello again. Thank you. Following along with the strategic plan's new goals and actions, staff has prepared a pilot program for the Eastville Leadership Academy. Originally, the academy was part of the strategic plan for Target 2 Public Safety, Goal 3 to increase community connectivity. The goals for this program are to engage the issues facing the city through productive discussions, to grow awareness and understanding of local government, to develop relationships within the community, to stay involved in problem solving and the evolution of the city of Eastville, and to create ambassadors and community champions. The curriculum of the program will include an overview and an in-depth presentation of each of the city operations services departments, community and economic development, focusing on building and investing in Eastville, revenues and budgets, showcasing how tax dollars work in the city, education and partnering agencies, and public safety partners, which would include the Neighborhood Watch and our in-house community enhancement safety team. We will also include a service project for this first class of the Eastville Leadership Academy. Requirements to participate in this program are as follows. Participants must be over the age of 18, must work or reside in the city of Eastville, must commit to 6 weeks of the program that will be held over consecutive Thursdays here at City Hall and at other locations in Eastville. Classes will begin in April 2020, and applications will be available at City Hall or online on February 18th. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao, you want a clarification on the question? Oh, okay, okay, no problem. We'll actually move to, Mark, do we have any public comments?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Then we'll go to council discussion. Councilmember Lorimore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm looking here at the recommended actions, and this is a receive and file. You're not looking for input or funding for this, it's already funded.
As to say, we hope to achieve some scholarships with local businesses and sponsorships, sponsorships, it is Academy. And so we're hoping to connect with some of our businesses as well as connect them with the participants of the Leadership Academy. We are open to receiving feedback, but we heard the message loud and clear at the strategic plan workshop that this was a goal of council. We wanted to make sure that we delivered that program quickly.
Okay. One thing that I would like to provide as feedback is I really appreciate the work that has gone into this, and I think that this is something that is great for our residents. We need active and engaged residents, absolutely. But us as a city carrying this forward, doing it with city resources, city tax dollars, I would actually prefer that this be something that we present to a partner like the chamber to take up and run instead of the city. In my interactions with other cities, and I'm sure that there are some that do this, usually my understanding is that chambers run these. So that is my concern. It's not to take away from the hard work and that has gone into this. This looks solid. It's just that we as an agency are taking the lead on it. I think this should be more organic. So, thank you.
I do have a comment that a clarification. When we talk about taxpayers' dollars, the way I understand the program is that there would be no taxpayer dollars, because if the people that are running are non-exempt management employees, which if they were to put the hours in, it's not like they're putting overtime hours because they don't get paid overtime. And so, am I just understand that correctly? And the recurring, let's say each session's 3 hours, right? And this is annually or every 6 months. So the burden of our employees is 3 hours for the entire program of one management director type role, which is a non-exempt employee. Am I understanding that correctly? So when we talk about taxpayers' dollars, what would we utilize towards taxpayers' money? I don't think it is. Am I understanding that correctly? Does anyone want to comment on that?
It would largely be myself and the management team at the city of Eastville, along with our regional partners, RSO, CAL FIRE, that would come to one, a JRPD, Corona Norca Unified School District, and JCSD to another. But we would be reaching out to their management team as well, and to come and share what makes up Eastville and how your local resources are done. So we're not anticipating, besides management staff time, much more resources going into this.
And to understand, like, let's say we do this program, how many times will we do this program annually? Is it one time? Is it two?
We this is a pilot one. We're going to get through it and see, do we want to repeat it? Is this our one and done, or do we want to continue doing it? Regardless of who runs it, the Eastville management team will be showing up to them. So it just remains in local control, and that's what we were thinking. We could just run it and show up, and then we don't. That's what we were proposing.
Yeah, that's the way I understood it, so I was just clarifying that.
And to piggyback on that, your tax dollars at work would be going over how a city develops a budget and how those funds are allocated and earmarked for specific projects.
I guess I'm just saying there's really any funds being utilized is my point. There's no fiscal impact. I mean, I guess you bring in lunch for some people, again, that we can go through sponsorships on that.
Correct.
It's not, I don't see there's a big cost, there's no really cost.
We were going to be working with our
Hitting our
developers
cost.
and our local businesses to sponsor each one, so that if we brought in dinner or something like that, that they would pay for it.
I mean, I can understand if it was an employee of non-management status, then I could see, okay, hey, there's gonna be overtime costs and those things. But I know that's not the case, so. Okay, thank you for clarifying. Councilmember Cassari.
Yeah, my understanding is this is going to be far better than any other program that's probably going on in any city that's run by a chamber. The way this is going to be much more dynamic, and it's probably something that's above and beyond what our chamber would be able to handle and facilitate. So that's what I'm expecting anyway. I sure hope you meet my expectations. So,
No pressure.
Yeah. So I think this will be really, I think the public is really going to enjoy participating in this. So, thank you.
Councilmember Rigby, I did it again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, great presentation. I like this. This will be very good for us. The only question I do have is there a reason that we're only opening it up to adults? Is there any way that we could include like high school age students?
We were thinking about doing a separate one for just high school students, but at this time we were thinking of just keeping it as adults. as the inaugural one, and then having a separate one that we maybe even go over to the high school and participate and make it easier for them to participate. We just wanted to get through the first one with adults.
I'd recommend that we open it to our high school students, even though the first one. We had 6 of our students from the high school come out and speak tonight. We have a very actively engaged youth population that I think would enjoy something like this. And I think it could be very beneficial for youth as well as for the adults to have the youth there. Oops. I think it could be very beneficial with mingling them on something like this. That's just my input on it.
Councilmember Lorrimore.
Thank you. I know Council or Mayor Pro Tem Yao has been turning on and off her mic button. Okay, all right. I'll make it quick. So when talking about taxpayer dollars, and I'm gonna maybe get a little bit nerdy here, but there's an opportunity cost of staff time. When staff is not, when our management staff isn't doing, well, their jobs, they are in doing this program, which again I think is a great program. It's taking them away from doing what they might, well, what they might otherwise be doing that could be more towards what their job titles are. So that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Rigby, and I promise Mayor Pro Tem
Sorry.
you're next.
Just in response to that, I think that's a very good comment. I think at the same time, we've got to look at how much, especially of our management staff, responds to resident questions, that if they are educated through something like this, that it may reduce a lot of those questions that are asked. That this could be an education aspect of it. The other side of it is too, I think if the chamber were to do it, the chamber is going to call and ask our management staff to be there. And I think it's better for this information to come from our management staff rather than our management staff to give the chamber a presentation to present, because then there's the questions, and how does a chamber member answer a specific question regarding community enhancement and safety, regarding planning, regarding how the city manager's office is, regarding city clerk stuff. I think that's I think it'd be very hard for the chamber to do that.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao.
Yay, finally.
He was trying to cheat you out, man. He was trying to take your spot.
Oh, no worries. I agree with Councilmember Rigby. Just a few months ago, I was at the local high school for principal for a day, and actually quite a few students came up to me and they were like, oh, like, you're from the city. Like, how can we learn more about the city? Do you guys have some sort of like youth council or any kind of programs for us? And, I was like, no, not right now, but we'll work on it. And the reality is that some of the students are very eager to learn about government, to learn about city government. In case in point, my neighbor, the one who presented, it actually started because she came up to me and she started talking about like traffic engineering. Like she asked me all these questions about traffic, and I was just like, you know what? I don't have all the answers, but I do know a lot of people who might have the answers. So come on to the city council meeting and present there. So it's I think there's also that, but also the other part of it is that it's important for them to have that sense of community. And speaking from personal experience, I see a lot of my friends who decided to move away from Eastville. Like after they graduated from high school, they went off to college and they never really, they haven't moved back here. And it seems like they don't plan on doing so. And a lot of it's also because they don't have that connection with the city when they were in high school or when they were younger. And for them, it was like, okay, this is the place I grew up, but that was it. Like they went to school, they went back home. They went to school, they went back home. So, And I see that, you know, well, with some of my friends who are more involved in city government and student government and college, and we tend to come back more, you know, because of that, like having that sense of community, it's so important, and I think this is a good place to start. So no, I 100% agree with Councilmember Rigby. If possible, I know there might be a liability issue if they're under 18, I'm not sure. But if there's some way we can work on that or around that, that would be great. I would love to see this. I would love to see high school students be part of this as well.
We can open it up to high school students. We just need to put some kind of a minimum age. So my recommendation maybe would be 16.
Yeah, 16 sounds good. Juniors, seniors, yeah.
Juniors and seniors.
Yeah.
Is that, we're gonna nod on that? Oh, do we, you wanna? You go with your comments. Councilmember Tassari.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I concur with having student engagement and being able to participate in this program. However, we might want to see how the first one goes, and it's going to be an evolving program. So, but I think when we do, we should obviously have a pathway to get student engagement, and I think probably just for staff, the first people to reach out to at the school would probably be the club leaders. Let them get the club leaders involved, and then they can go back to their respective organizations and relay the information and kind of build up that encouragement if they're impressed with what they experienced. So but I am in favor of getting them involved.
Sounds great.
Yeah, if anything, our community could use more, just again, just that education, that outreach, how we actually work as government, and I think it's very important to have that out there. I think this will be a great tool to empower people, to educate people how things are actually done, and I think it'll help the misinformation that's out there. At least you have people that will say, no, this is kind of how it works, and I think it'd be very helpful. So, with that, there's no vote on this, so it's just a receive and file. But to be clear, we will be opening it to adults and juniors and seniors.
Sounds great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Crystal, too, for that as well. Just for clarity, I'm gonna start going like this on council comments. I'm gonna start from right, and I'm gonna go directly across, make it really easy instead of jumping. So, and that's my fault, so I'll own it. We'll now move to item 12.4, fiscal year 2019-2020 mid-year budget review. And this will be presented by Amanda Wells,
Good
our
evening.
new finance director.
Hello.
Ah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Wells, Finance Director. Before you on item 12.4 tonight, we have the fiscal year 2019-20 mid-year budget review. So the focus here on this presentation is going to be on producing projections and showing them to you for June 30, 2020. So basically, we took those projections that I made, compared them against our adjusted budget to identify where adjustments are necessary. And so we will focus on those projections and touch on all the proposed adjustments that we are asking you to approve and the reasoning for those adjustments. Whoop, I hit the button a little too soon there. But the projections, just real quick, are based on trend analysis. So different revenues and expenditures require different analysis. The trending methods that I used are not utilized across the boards. I use different methods tailored to each category of revenue and expenditures. So here, this is just a general fund projection summary. This includes the restricted fire fund and the general fund. Revenues are projected at 31 million. The unrestricted general fund is 24.6 million. The restricted fire fund is 6.4 million. On the expenditure side, we're projected at 30.6 million. Unrestricted general fund, 23.7 million, and the restricted fire fund at 6.9 million. So net revenue, what drops out at the bottom, we're always looking for positive numbers. The unrestricted general fund is positive $808,000. The restricted fire fund is actually negative $489,000. We do have 10 million in projected fund balance in that fund to cover that. We do have the roof project that actually bumped this up a little bit higher in the current fiscal year. So just real quick, I kind of like these graphics because it breaks down what our property tax is. This is the base property tax. The city of Eastvale, the fire production district, which is our restricted fire fund, 6 cents goes for every dollar of property tax that's paid. The city of Eastvale receives 2 cents on every dollar. That goes into the unrestricted general fund. This is just the base property tax. So any assessments for CFDs that are mainly run by the Harupa Community Service Districts, a few are owned by Harupa Area Recreation and Park District, and Eastvale has a few maintenance districts and 3 CFD districts. Those are the Mellows. Those are going to be on top of your base property tax. An example here is an assessed value in Eastvale is about $590,000 on a home. The 1% tax on that is $5,900. $400 would go to the fire fund, $150 would go to the general fund for a total of $550 to Eastvale. Sales tax right now is 7.75% in Eastvale. We receive 1% of those taxable sales. An example is for every $100 that's spent in the city, probably every time I go to Home Depot, that's what happens. Eastvale receives $1 to its general fund. So going back to the mid-year analysis, just the general fund revenue highlights. These are where we're going to start to see the changes that we're requesting from council. So on the taxes side, the restricted fire fund is going to increase by $300,000. This was an omission in copying forecasts from the final budget document, from the forecasting document. Miscellaneous revenue, we are expecting to increase by $400,000. That was the nice big WRCOG check that they brought in at the last council meeting. So we're going to recognize that on the budget side. General fund highlights for expenditures. Personnel, salaries and benefits is projected savings of $1.2 million. We budget it incredibly conservatively. Include budgeting at top step and top benefits. Actual costs are typically lower than that budget. So we've got a big savings there. The good thing is that we build this into our budget. We know that we can handle it when we do budget. Contract services, IT services is projected to increase by $80,000. This is an invoice that was from the prior year that we had to pay in the current year, and then additionally, we've also increased our IT services to match the current size of the organization. Maintenance, building maintenance is projected to increase by $68,000. Oop, I turned the page. I'm gonna go to the phone. This is for citrus property, janitorial, and landscape maintenance contracts. Capital outlay is projected to increase by $1.4 million. This is a contract and purchase order that was approved by council in May of 2019 after the budget document was completed. The project will be reimbursed by TUMP fees. So there was just kind of an in-between period where it didn't make the budget document. It was approved by council. We're officially going to put it into the budget.
Amanda, that was for the Limonite extension design. Just
Oh,
to
yeah.
put that in
I
perspective.
left that out of my notes.
It's okay.
Debt service is projected to increase by $1 million. This is for a Goodman Commerce Center tax sharing agreement that was approved by council in 2016, and in 2018, a $4.5 million cap was put on that. So once we hit $4.5 million, we will be done with that agreement. The $1 million actually includes current year and the prior year, so we won't see this full $1 million in the next year budget. Transfers out, this is money that's coming from the general fund into other funds. $202,000 is for additional streetlight LED retrofit project expenditures. We're going to use that $400,000 that came in from WRCOG to pay for that. That was due to some additional poles that were located, and some of the pricing on some of the poles came out higher due to the age of the pole actually being determined to be older than, or newer, sorry, than it actually originally was thought to be. Transfer out additionally from the general fund will increase $470,000 in order to fully fund the debt service fund to pay for this particular streetlight debt payment that we have annually. And then finally, a $700,000 transfer out of the general fund to the general fund CIP fund to cover a negative fund balance. Other fund highlights, we have the gas tax fund. Revenues are projected to remain steady. Expenditures are projected to increase $75,000 for additional traffic signal maintenance and repairs throughout the city. That fund has a projected $3 million fund balance. Area drainage plan, revenues are projected to exceed budget by $859,000. This is revenue coming in for Riverside County for the remainder of fund balance due to Eastvale on the area drainage plan project. Debt service revenues are projected to increase, same reason, because we're doing a transfer in from the general fund to cover the streetlight project. And then same thing on the capital projects fund, we're increasing revenues because of that transfer in from the general fund. So then we have available resources. This is the projected fund balances for the general fund. We're projected to be at $42.5 million at June 30, 2020. The restricted fire fund takes up 10 million of that. The general fund emergency contingency, which is based on 50% of our budgeted expenditures, is 13 million. Committed, we have pension reserve for 1.5 million, public safety rate stabilization reserve for 1 million, and the civic center library reserve for 8 million, which leaves unassigned reserve of $9 million. So section 2, the staff report is broken up into section. I kind of broke this up as well. We have the GAN appropriations limit, which we went back and reviewed. The GAN limit establishes a limit on the proceeds of general taxes that may be appropriated as revenue in a given fiscal year. Annually, the limit may be increased by population growth and cost of living factors. A review was conducted to ensure that the California Department of Finance population and cost of living factors were properly utilized. The difference between prior year ending population numbers and the following year's beginning population number, there's usually a difference every time those letters are released, and we can recognize that. We have not recognized that in prior years, so we went back and corrected that. This correction has been run through legal, and it has been run through our auditors to ensure that it will pass our audit in the current year. So we went back and implemented some corrections back to fiscal year 13-14, and those are attached in attachment E to the staff report. We have personnel updates. There's a couple changes here. When we experience vacancies, we review our service model in relation to our current personnel structure. These proposed changes are a result of this review, and these changes do not increase our full-time equivalent count and represent top budget and top benefit. Incumbents will not be paid at top step. And there's that little note down there. So in total, we are reducing our FTE by 0.75%. Budget savings at top step and top benefits was about $4,000. So the recommendations here, there is an error on the salary range for the executive assistant. If I go back here, it's going from 16 to 19. The salary schedule that is attachment F does not show that change, so we need that to be reflected in the minutes, that it should be at range 19. So the recommendations are to approve and adopt the resolution for the mid-year budget appropriation, approve and adopt the GAN limit appropriations amendment, approve and adopt the resolution establishing the revised list of authorized position, and approve and adopt the authorization for the salary schedule and range table amendments. So any questions? We'd be happy to answer those.
From council, is there any questions before we go to public comment? Any questions on the topic, or do we want to save that for council discussion? I will start from my left first. I'll go with Councilmember Tassari, and then I'll move across.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
How close are we to hitting that GAN limit?
You know what, I'd actually have to go back and look at the paperwork on that. We're close, but we're not terribly close with these adjustments, but we are probably in the hundreds of thousands of dollars getting there.
Can you illuminate for the public what the GAN is and what happens if we exceed that limit?
If we hit or exceed the GAN limit, we do have to reimburse tax dollars back to the residents. So the GAN limit was set, I think it was in the 70s, kind of around when the property tax changes went into effect, where cities could no longer levy their own property taxes. The GAN limit came out of that. GAN was actually a senator in California at the time, and so it sets a limit based on your appropriations for revenue. When we adopted, or when we incorporated as a city, we adopted a GAN limit, which was appropriate at the time in 2010. But as we have grown exponentially, I think a new limit was adopted in 2013. Most cities don't have this issue because their GAN limits were adopted back in the 70s, and they've had all kinds of CPI growth over time. Having been incorporated during the recession kind of caused us to kind of expand faster than our GAN limit can expand. So these are really just corrections that we made where we missed out on a little bit of limit from year to year. We can also utilize qualified capital expenditures and our unfunded liability payments as a credit against that appropriation to bring our revenue appropriations down. We have not utilized that yet, but that's something we may have to do in the future.
Okay, so just to see if I understand this correctly, So if we were to bring in more tax revenue than what our GAN limit is, it would result in us losing out on potential revenue that
Yes.
would come in. So raising the GAN limit does not impact what it's gonna cost people as far as their taxes and things
No.
like that. It just means if we bring in X number of dollars and it exceeds our GAN limit, now we can't actually use that
Yes.
money. We can't put it in the
Correct.
bank if we're not spending it.
Much more concise than what I said, yes.
Thank you.
Just to kind of go off that, just because I don't really understand the GAN limit, how is that? I know that originally it's taken based off of the population of the city from the census of 2010, correct?
I believe so, but we went out to the voters in 2013 to establish a new limit. So you can go to the voters at any time to establish a new limit, whatever that limit might be. They can vote that into place. But I think I'm not sure what triggered that in 2013, but I think originally in 2010 it was probably based on the census.
Okay, so is the GAN limit currently correlated to our population, or is it based off of that 2013 number and CPI and
So you
increases?
can use your population growth in combination with CPI, and those amounts are established by the DOF every year in the spring, about budget time. You use those factors to increase your limit year over year. So use the prior year's limit, apply the CPI and the population factor increase to arrive at your new limit for the current year.
So over those last few years from 2013, we have utilized the proper data regarding our projected growth or our actual growth or whatever numbers released, as well as CPI, as well as what's allotted, right? So we've used those numbers. It's not just an arbitrary growth that we've,
No.
hey, we think we're at 70 whatever thousand.
Yeah, it's
Those are
issued by
numbers
the
that are actually
California Department of Finance issues those
perfect.
numbers.
Thank
What
you.
happens though is the ending balance that they give you does not always match the beginning balance for next year because they're giving you an estimate in the spring and they finalize their numbers in the fall. And so in the fall, we should go back and capture that missing little bit of limit there and recalculate. We just haven't done that year over year. So we
Okay.
went back to capture that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mayor, if I might just add on, we already went back out to the voters once, but since our city is developing somewhat backwards, where we developed the suburbs first, and then we're gonna develop the downtown and the commercial and the retail and the services that create the sales tax and the transit occupancy tax and the things that really bring the revenue in to provide the services to our residents. We're gonna need to keep a close eye on this GAN limit, and we might need to go back out to the voters, because as hotels come in and the station and the Hamner Place and the Merge and industrial manufacturers come into our city, this could grow really quickly because we're focused on land uses that are tax generators for us. And as we can reverse the leakage of sales tax revenue out of our city and bring it back into our city, that's going to grow our revenues. So our ability to enhance our public safety, to enhance our services to our residents, to be able to put more firefighters, more police officers out onto the streets. This is something we're going to keep a close eye on.
Councilmember Lorimore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. The GAN limits, I can't help myself, I have to go there. So you had that chart a little bit earlier, one of the first ones, the splitting of the pie. Yeah, right, yeah, sorry, okay, and it's gonna be, once we get there, it's not even gonna be relevant. No, I'm kidding. Okay, perfect. So when we're talking about the GAN limit, does that, if we exceed it, is it go towards all of the agencies within the jurisdiction or only specifically the city of Eastville?
So it would just be us. So it would be on general property tax. It would be the 6 cents that we get and the 2 cents that we get, and it would have to go back to the taxpayer.
Okay.
And it would include it's all of our general taxes, it would also include sales tax.
Okay. There,
Mhm.
it would be complicated, but I must admit, there's a part of me that kind of likes it. But neither here nor there. We're not going that direction. I did have a question as to the viability of going the. Totally lost that thought. It'll be there. It's been a long week and year so far. Okay, I'm gonna jump ahead to a different thing, and then that will come back. Oh, yes, did we ever, you mentioned WRCOG and the large check. Did we ever figure out what happened to that street light or streetlights that they couldn't find? Did we find them? Not yet. They're somewhere? Okay. For the positions that are the revising the list of authorized positions, I did have a couple questions related to that. One is on the how we have the 1.25, and I'm going off of memory, the 1.25 dedicated for 2 part-time positions for the street sweeping chase, and we want to change that to 1 full-time position. So I was reading through here earlier, and it was saying that this would facilitate more being out in the community. Having 2 part-time positions, I didn't understand that. Having 2 sets of eyes in the community, I would, even at not a full-time position, would cover more ground. How does it make more sense to move to 1?
This last year, we've only had 0.75 FTEs, 1 person doing street sweeping, and we've been fairly effective with it. And we evaluated that we didn't need 50% more, we just needed 25% more. It gives an employee that is currently here and has served as one of our employees of the quarter to become a full-time employee with the city of Eastvale. And when we evaluated their ability to do the street sweeping enforcement, we believe that that position could handle that.
Okay, and this has nothing to do with that employee in question. This is just very reminiscent to me of previous iterations of council and staff members talking about how we only needed 1 code enforcement person in the city, and then we came back later and had to rejigger that because it ended up not being the case. And but I put that out there as a concern. Also, I did have a question about the defunding of the position for the communications management position. I realized that, in fact, I had to step back personally from it because of my day job duties and other responsibilities in life from a lot of my social media activity because it is such a time suck. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but I don't know if it makes sense to, at this time, go in that direction to completely defund the position. Maybe rather than addressing this now, that we wait until we come back with the budget and I understand that we're utilizing our city clerk and the existing city staff and our city clerk and our existing social media professionals are doing a great job, but I don't know if we want to see how this goes until that budget cycle and then come to a decision. I feel at this point in time uncomfortable with removing the PIO spot. So
We can leave it in there funded and leave it vacant and continue to evaluate this if you would like to do that. Historically in the city, we until last year, we only had one FTE handling communications. We now have 2 communications specialists serving our communications team. So we have doubled that we had for the first 6 or 7 years of our existence in the last year. And then with having our city clerk be our strategic communications director and managing and leading those 2 communication specialists, we will have more communication FTEs than we have ever, for most of our existence as a city, we will have more than we have had in the past. And so we went up to 3 FTEs in communications, and really it'll be probably about 2.5 because Mark will split his time between the city clerk and the communications.
Well, I want to reiterate that I think what we've been doing with our city staff since the loss of our PIO, everybody's been doing a great job. It is one of those things in the city of Eastville that a lot of our residents, including myself, even if I'm not making comments, spend a lot of time on social media, and it is how we communicate with our residents. So I just put that out there for further communication among council members and possible responses from staff. But that concludes my questions for now, and I appreciate the indulgence of everybody's patience. Thank you.
All right, that'll end the question session. Mark, is there any public comments?
Yes, we have one comment card from Michael O'Connor.
Mr. O'Connor.
Hello again. I actually appreciated hearing some of the comments that you were just doing about the changes. One thing that I did want to comment about as well is the public information officer position. If I'm remembering right, that was one of the first 5 positions we had in the city. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think it goes way back. So maybe a little nostalgic about whether that goes away or not. But I can also see if we're beefing it up in the city clerk office that maybe that would work. So, we'll see on that. One other thing that I was thinking about and also was brought up by Councilmember Lorimore is what we're doing with the code enforcement street sweeping area, consolidating 2 budgeted 3/4 positions to 1 full-time. We've heard on a number of occasions concerns about parking and problems in Serafina community. We heard about tonight an Airbnb situation. I think a lot of that happens on different time schedules than just parking and street sweeping day. So I don't know if putting 1 position and that's all they do is maybe appropriate, or if we look at, is there, I don't know exactly the street sweeping and if they're, 5 days a week full time, but is there a way that maybe one day they're kind of sweeping through neighborhoods at, dinner time or a little bit later and maybe addressing some of these problems? So that was, something else I had. And then I don't know who handles it. I thought it was maybe public information officer, but congratulations, Mayor Rigby and Mayor Pro Tem Plott. If I'm coming in here and I look at the photos, that's who we have. So I'd love to maybe promote a couple of people and get those photos changed. And if that's PIO or city clerk or somebody else, I don't know. Anyway,
it's in process
and so
right
that's
now.
going to be another, add $100 or whatever it is to the budget for that. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. I appreciate that.
Michael O'Connor, that we're in process of getting those replaced. It's just taking a little bit. Yes, we're still working on the business cards as well. It has to do with our vendors, not us.
All right, we will now move to city council comments. And I'll start my left this time because Clint kind of finished it out. So we'll start over here if you have any comments for now.
Just go to, since we're talking about the merging of the positions, my personal opinion on it is I don't think anybody is more well-informed other than the city manager within the city than the city clerk as far as what the goings are on. I think he's in a perfect position to be able to manage the communications office or department. And the people that are in there right now are more than capable. I think they're some pretty high-quality communicators, and they're doing a good job. And I think just having the city clerk absorb that responsibility and basically be their supervisor and to make sure that, you know, what's going on is proper, I don't have a problem with it. I also don't think it's not our business to make personnel decisions. You know, I mean, we can give our opinion, obviously, but it's up to the city manager. And if you fail, it's his butt. So, yeah, so that's my personal opinion. So, that's all I got to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No pressure, either one of you, huh?
Actually,
you said it from the dais.
Mayor Rigby.
No, no, that is the mayor. But just for clarification too, I think since I've been on council since 2016, even shortly there before, as far as I'm aware, there was no PIO for the city. We did not have a PIO. We had a communications specialist for a while, for a long while, until our last PIO was promoted, unfortunately, shortly before she left. So there was a long time, a number of years that we did not have a PIO. We had a communications specialist, and then I believe we had an intern that helped out with the communications team. We have seen that our communications team has done a good job, and I think it's, once again, I know we all laugh about it, but I think it is very true of what Councilmember Tessari said. As the council, I don't think it's our position to dictate the day-to-day operations of how it gets done. We have one person that reports to us, or actually two people that report to us, the city manager and the city attorney. If communication doesn't get done the way that our city manager is proposing, we'll let him know. We will let him know. We'll let him know that it's not happening, that there needs to be a change. And not to get too blunt, but there's either two changes that happen. You make a change with the communications, or we make another change that we have to make, and our city manager would understand that. But I don't know, we hired a city manager, and we put our trust in our city manager to run our day-to-day operations, and I think it's, there may be certain things that we don't completely agree with different positions, and I think I totally agree with the street sweeping. I think that's one of those things that it's, I don't know that I'm a complete fan of it, but I trust, I'm not there every day. I would imagine that this isn't a decision that's coming from HR. This isn't a decision that's coming from the city manager's office. This is more of a decision that's coming from the management of the community enhancement and safety manager that deals with the day-to-day operations. And I think it's just a trickle effect. I think it's one of those things that, yes, we can give our input. If we aren't there on the day-to-day operations, I think it's hard for us to give we can give our recommendations, but my position is I trust what our city manager does within reason of budget. I think that's the crucial thing that we need to look at, is we need to look at the budget, and we need to look at the total outcome. As a council, we manage the budget, and we manage the outcome of the city. If we start to see, and I'm saying this out there for all of our residents, if we start to see areas of our street sweeping that's lacking, or communications, or talent in special projects, or city clerk's office, or any of these things that happen, or anything in the city, let us know. Let us know, and then we can address those things. If we need to come back and say, you know what, we tried it, it's not quite working out, Mr. City Manager, what do we do? So that's just my thoughts on these. I like to see a budget savings, and if we think we can make it work and continue to improve our city with a budget savings, I'm all for it.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao. Wait, pass it. Okay. Councilmember Larimore.
I'm going to add to my already extensive comments. So I hear my colleagues on what was said, and it is not a question about faith in our city manager, my comments I was making earlier. In that this is coming before us, I understand we're being asked to weigh in, hence my weighing in. The the changes, the reclassifications of the positions, I do have concerns. As many have already been listed, the total dollar amount, while there is a savings, if I'm reading that correctly, $4,100 savings with the elimination of numerous positions because we're pushing up the total amount that position can get paid to. Not that, and it's been clarified, not that we're going to pay that right now, but I do have a concern about what that means in the future, assuming that we do have a change in staff and somebody comes along that is the most qualified and gets towards the upper end. And so this is not just about the now. This is not about a $4,000 savings. This is about a much longer term. I understand the logic behind changing of some of these positions, absolutely. I appreciate the explanation that we've received, but I do have some concerns, so thank you.
Actually, I probably could have asked some questions earlier, but they kind of came up. So, I mean, I have a few questions to kind of put you on the spot real quick, and I apologize for that. You had mentioned that the general fund, the ending reserve balance was at 42 million. And was that the same for last year as well?
No, so that will change year to year.
Okay, so what was, if you have it on, if you don't, I can give you time, 'cause I have other questions. But for June 30th, 2019, what was our year-ending, reserve balance? Total and general fund?
Excuse me here, I'm not turning pages very fast.
And I can always go to other questions too, but.
No, I've got it here. So the audited fund balance as of 6/30/2019 was 42.2 million.
And that is total?
That is total general fund and fire fund.
Okay, and then total overall, everything?
Everything is 60.9 million.
And where are we projected to finish at that same date, but in 2020?
Overall, 60.3.
Okay.
And that's mainly due to projects that are ongoing in the CIP fund.
Yep, understood. And then the general fund?
General fund is 42.5.
Yeah, it was about the same. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, thank you for putting together the, this mid-year budget. I think everything's starting to look solid, and hopefully, again, as typical, we go in pretty conservative, and we should have probably a more solid finish. I think it's very indicative that people understand too, that there were a lot of investments made, a lot of one-time investments made this year to, more specifically in public safety. You have the ALPR cameras, you have other things that we've done. We really, even though we voted on the 10 additional patrol hours, but really didn't take an effect till this year. So there's a lot of costs, that decision we made, but now impacted our budget this year. So there's a lot of things that we've done to improve those things, and next year, I mean, it's possible when we do have our public hearing budgets next year, we might take a different approach as far as how we look at things. But I'm proud as far as still being ahead of the curve. I wouldn't expect anything less, and being appropriate. I think the things that we're doing to make our city better, to invest our cities, as Mayor Pro Tem Miao constantly says, is the right thing to do. In regards, I'm just going to echo what some of my colleagues have mentioned in regards to the position. Yeah, I think the responsibility of the city manager to determine, he's determined that these are the changes I want to make, and I'm going to create I'm not going to say savings, I'm just going to call it a wash. We're going to call it a wash, and these are the things that we feel that we're going to fill the gaps in certain areas. We're not going to increase our costs and staff costs, and here's the things that we're going to make, and I tend to agree with that. I think as far as the experience, if we're talking specifically about the PIO experience, we tend to forget that. We tend to forget that Mark was a PIO at Rosemead for special projects, right? And it was in what special project was it? It was community emergency.
Or emergency operations.
Yeah. So I think he's a phenomenal city clerk, and he runs his department very efficiently, very effectively. He's known regionally, and I think leadership can transcend in other departments. And I'm hoping it does work out. And I think what you do is you allow the city manager to make those decisions. And if it doesn't work out, if we have certain analytics that we do have analytics we can measure, we have data we can measure, that if we have data that we can measure, say that, hey, our communications are going down, there's things that we can look at. It doesn't have to be anecdotal. I'm not gonna look on social media what someone says they think is poor. Get real raw data, get analytics, and say, hey, you know what? We're not getting as much viewership anymore. We're not, those are the things that we want to measure, right? That's the outreach we're talking about. And maybe if we do public safety workshops, or sorry, public workshops or different things, there might be things that we could work on there as well. But those are things we need to measure. And I think Mark will rise to the challenge. My hope is that that would happen. But if it doesn't, and it starts to become appealing or appear that, yeah, hey, our communications department is suffering, then that's when we'll step in and kind of talk and say, hey, we may need to make some changes or have a PIO. But in this circumstance, I respect the decision of our city manager to do those things and then evaluate from here on out. And he has got two awesome staff members in Anissa and Bobby, who now, if you really think about it, and I don't want to just keep talking for too long, but you know, we haven't had a PIO for about 3 months. I've been in the position for about 3 months. And that's not a good testing ground to see how someone's going to do, especially when you really haven't fully given that person the reins. It's kind of been, hey, you're just filling in for the moment. But I think when you give the person the reins, you try it out, you test it out. They got two awesome communication specialists that you can oversee. And you have 10 years of experience in government and plenty of management experience. Like I said, that can transcend to multiple departments. So I expect to see a lot, and I think it's the right thing to do at the moment we're in, and we'll evaluate it come. You know, the beautiful thing is, you know, we're going to be having public hearings on budget, so it's an appropriate conversation. Come a couple months from now, do we need a PIO? It's a very relevant conversation. So whether you eliminate the position, whether you keep it, it really doesn't matter, because when we're going to start talking about budgets, that'll be a conversation that comes up again, and whether it's needed. And there, we'll at least have some time to measure how well our communications team is doing, and if they need someone very specific or not, or it's Mark. So sorry to put you on the spot, but I wanted to at least throw that out there. So, but that is all I have, and thank you again. I love this type of information. It looks like we're going absolutely in the right direction. I'm looking forward to our public hearings on our budget coming up. I think it's really exciting. So we'll see. So that's all I have.
Mayor, I might also say in December, we went out for an RFQ for on-call professional services. So if we need anybody with a communication expertise or experience or for a special project, we can utilize those capabilities as well. And we'll probably be bringing back those suggested consultants at the next council meeting. So we will have additional resources available to us should we need them. But reducing the FTEs at this time it is what myself and the management team have done an evaluation of our services right now.
Yeah, one more comment too, in regards to street sweeping. And again, if I were the city manager, I would give a lot of autonomy to this gentleman here, right, with Johnny. I tell this to Michael Connor all the time. This person has really, with his team, has absolutely took a proactive approach in our community enhancement safety program, from called code enforcement, with street sweeping is a part of that, and has literally flipped it around and done a 180 in the absolute right direction. Anybody has a different opinion about that, we can argue that, and I can tell you I'll win that argument every time. Because again, data proves everything. Data will prove everything. No, I know, but I'm just saying, but data will prove everything. And if at this point you've kind of won the argument, if you think that's what it is, you are the caretaker of your department, right? And so same thing. And I would absolutely support that. And I always say something, hey, it's great when it's working until it's not, and when it's not, then we'll address it. And that's kind of the approach, right? And then I think that's the right approach to take. Not to doubt it works till it's not working anymore.
And I take your feedback very constructively. We will continue to do a feedback loop to see, are there any shortcomings that we need to address in our budget? We are also making some strategic efforts to align with the strategic plan. One of our individuals that oversees the emergency management system will be doing a lot more CERT trainings, and we're going to bring CERT trainings in-house rather than paying the county to do them for us. We're going to be able to do them in-house and do them more frequently and do them on different schedules, so more of our residents can participate in them, which aligns really well with our Neighborhood Watch program, which aligns really well with our community enhancement and safety team. So there's a lot of great things that are going on in the community enhancement and safety team, and I think you nailed it on the head. Johnny has been a great addition to the leadership of that team, and hiring the right talent is really important to our organization.
I want to clarify one thing. I'm not going out in the public arguing about street sweeping and its effectiveness or not. Just as an example that they're doing a really good job, and you can't really lose the argument that they're doing a phenomenal job. I'm just not going around busting people's chops. So don't worry. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Yao, my circus has ended. You can take over professionally now.
Thank you, Mayor. And the city clerk knows this, I hear great things about him, like especially when I'm near LA, going to events near there. I'll have elected officials, I'll have city staff coming to me whenever I introduce myself, like, hi, I'm from Eastville. They're like, you guys stole our guy. And I was like, what are you guys talking about? And then they were referring to Mark, and they were telling me how great he is and how he's the best city clerk they have ever had. So it's not, I'm not doubting your ability at all. I'm sure you can probably type the minutes, type the agenda in your sleep. That's what the mayor and I always talk about that. But, with that being said, one of the things that I am a little bit concerned, and the reason for that is because as we're thinking about Eastville 2040, as we are thinking about all these developments, we're growing rapidly as a city. And I think it's important to have someone who, who's dedicated to doing this full time. And it's not just social media. I think social media is great, but it's also beyond social media, right? It's also about it's meeting where people are. And a lot of people, you'll be surprised, like they don't have social media. They might not use Facebook all the time. Yes, you have people who are obsessed, who will keep going on scrolling through the feed, but there are people who don't. And their families, like their parks, like it's about meeting people where they are, and some people do want that personal interaction, and that they want to see us out there, and that it's, and I'm sure for those who knock on doors during campaigning season, like you'll see it's not just about social media, it's also about like so many other methods, like mailers or being out there at events. And so with that being said, like I'm just trying to think, I know our city clerk has brought the department to a whole new level, but I'm also thinking, how can we bring the communications department to a whole new level? Like how, as we're moving forward, how can we make it even better than ever? And I'm not sure if combining those two positions is the answer. And again, not doubting her ability or anyone's ability. It just, I'm trying to think of the time dedicated to that and all of that. So that's where I'm at. Yeah. And I hope that I'm wrong. I really do. Yeah. I hope that you do a great job. But that's where I'm at. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for your comments. I'll make one comment. I think Mayor Pro Tem makes actually a really good point, is we won't want to be stagnant, we want to elevate our game. I think, to your point though, Mayor Pro Tem, is I think that's what time will allow us if this is it. And the benefit is that we're actually going to be going into a budget season, proceeding the next month. So we can evaluate those things and then determine if what we're doing is right. But I absolutely agree with that comment. Is there any more discussion on this? Okay, seeing that there is none, I'd like to solicit a motion and a second. There are four. Also, just ask me how many motions are there. There's actually four approvals on this, but you can sum it up in one motion. I'll move approval. Do I have a second?
That's approval of all four, correct? Second.
Councilmember Lorimore?
No.
Councilmember Rigby?
Yes.
Councilmember Tassari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao?
No.
Mayor Plott?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
All right. We will now move to item 12.5, Administrative Nuisance Abatement and Citation Ordinance Update. And this will be presented by our City Attorney, Erica Vega.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mayor and council members. And before you this evening is ordinance updating the administrative nuisance abatement procedures and also your administrative citation procedures in your code. Just very briefly, the existing code provisions are essentially held over from the county code, which you adopted upon incorporation and haven't been substantively updated since you've become your own city. And so over time, Johnny and his team had flagged various issues that they have in utilizing those provisions of the code and brought them to me, and we assessed and just determined that at this stage in time it was best just to do a comprehensive update to the procedures and clean it all up and make it cohesive and clear. So before you this evening is a complete redo, essentially, of all of your administrative nuisance abatement and citation procedures. So with respect to administrative citations, the procedures are actually generally the same and in line with what is already in the code. It's just fleshed out quite a bit more to eliminate a lot of gray areas where people could potentially raise questions about how the city did something and try to get the city on a technicality, and then also make some updates that reflect changes in state law that have occurred, including updating the fine amounts for building code violations, and then also allowing administrative fines to be assessed on illegal marijuana grows immediately without having to do an initial sort of notice of violation without a citation. And then also we included a hardship waiver provision, which is also required by state law. And with respect to the administrative nuisance abatement procedures, there is one pretty big procedural change that we're proposing to make, which is that currently, as written, the code requires a citation to be given to the person, and then it automatically triggers a hearing before the Planning Commission, before the city can take any further action. That is really out of line with best practices and almost every agency I certainly work with, and that we could find that the standard practice is for you to issue the citation, which then gives them the ability to request a hearing, not an automatic hearing. And so we've made that change. And also we've put it with a hearing officer versus the Planning Commission, as this is something that's not typically within a Planning Commission's scope. Normally things like this are heard by a hearing officer or some neutral third party. So we've made that one pretty big change. And then just like with the administrative citations, we're also just adding a lot more detail and clarity to the procedures so that there's no questions about what the city's supposed to be doing, how it's supposed to be implemented, and everything is just very clear for staff to follow. The other major change is that the definition of what is a public nuisance is much more expanded than what is in your current code. The current list is pretty anemic, and it can make the administrative nuisance abatement procedure not something that code can use, all that CES can use all the time. So having this expanded list really enhances this tool in their toolbox and gives them something that they can rely on a little bit more as one of the options to address code violations in the city. So obviously Johnny is here as well, can answer questions specific to, you know, what his team has experienced or anything else, and I'm happy to answer any other questions as well.
All right, thank you for that, Eric. Appreciate that. All right, Mark, any public comments?
Yes, Mayor, we have one public comment card from Michael O'Connor.
Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you for addressing an update in the code. I think it's been very needed, and I've been very vocal about this for quite some time, so I do appreciate seeing something has changed. I am not really in favor of the change from having it a citation going before a public body such as the Planning Commission. I'm not sure the Planning Commission necessarily is the right place. I do know other cities have like Public Nuisance Committee, that kind of thing, which is called when needed. So I have a lot of questions about the administrative appeal hearing. Who is that? And is it public? And is it a public notice or anything like that? I'm very appreciative of the fact that it's no longer, it automatically goes to somewhere. It has to be put on appeal. So this should be somebody that, you know, is asking for help or says this is where I'm at. But if it's kind of buried in, you know, some agency somewhere, how are we as a city going to know that somebody had something there? I'm not in any way saying that our community enhancement group would be overbearing, because it seems like it's not there, but this is our code, which should last for quite some time. And that major change I'm a little bit concerned with. The other thing I did note, I kind of went through a lot of the conditions that were in there, and I made a note, and I don't know if it's exactly the right section, but I said number 20, and landscaping is precluding a couple of things that I think maybe shouldn't be. It's decomposed granite and mulch as far as things that can be in your front yard. And I don't know if it's flushed out enough, but we're in a desert area, and I think more and more people are going to the decomposed granite and also mulching in their front yards. And so I don't know if that's something that should just be looked at and fine-tuned, or if that's really what we want. But again, I do appreciate that we're having something here, because I don't think the existing code had been followed. So if we get a code that's followed, I'm much more in favor of it. But again, I really want to see something that there's an option that the public is informed, and citizens, residents of our city can maybe participate in hearing things out and being the judge and jury. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. All right, I will now turn to council for discussion, and we'll start on the right with Councilmember Lorimore. If you have any comments. All right, Justin, you get on comments? Okay. Councilmember Desari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, you actually picked up, that was one of my concerns also, is that appeals process, and who we would designate to be the person who would be the decider.
Well, typically, you go out to a third party. There's third-party hearing officers that are out there, and that's who you would utilize. So it wouldn't be someone, a current city employee or commissioner or council member or anything like that. It's you go out to obtain a hearing officer.
The city uses a contract agency data ticket to handle our citations, and they have rotating hearing officers that are completely detached from the city. So they would provide those individuals to do those hearings.
Yeah, I've dealt with data ticket before.
And ultimately,
and that's why it's one of my concerns, because it's so, I agree with Mr. O'Connor on this one, it's so removed from the consequences, and it's just, it's this, they have no, they don't want to have a stake in the game, but we've all had tickets, and everyone knows what it's like to deal with, somebody that, over the phone or online, and you get I just went through this myself. I had a parking ticket and in another county, and it wasn't my car. Somebody did the, fingers like toes, and punched in the plate number. Has an entirely different vehicle description. A different color car. It was a truck. I have a car. But the plate number said my plate number. I send it in and say, hey, this is not my car. They reject it. What am I supposed to do? I got to take a whole day and drive to another county to their third party and get my ticket resolved. Or I just paid $100. I mean, I have to weigh these. I would much rather have something that's more accessible and sort of public. I mean, I don't have a problem with the commission hearing it. I understand, I can't, that it's definitely something, doesn't seem like it's within their purview. However, they do help establish some of the ordinances that we work under. Maybe we could put a commission or a committee together that would hear it, or it could become part of maybe the public safety committee or the planning commission, that they would hear. If there are appeals, we put it on their agenda. And I know time frames would probably be an issue, because they only have meetings certain times.
So that has been one of the issues with the current ordinance that we have, is that not only is it an automatic hearing in front of the planning commission, then we have to deal with agenda deadlines and all of that can then make the nuisance abatement procedure not a speedy enough tool to address the concern. So that's really kind of the issue I think we're trying to address here. But I understand your concern, and I had the same Bay Area Fast Track gave me like 6 tickets, even though I wasn't in the Bay Area. So I understand your concern. So
And one of the things we do here is when we get somebody who's having an issue with that ticket, we intervene. And we'll actually, Samantha or myself will go in and look at it. So in the situation you described, we would go look at that and find out that in fact it wasn't your car, and we could then cancel that citation out. So we do a little more customer service in that area here in Eastville.
And I understand you do, and the whole thing is times change. So it may work fantastic for a year or 2 years, and then, you know, you get a promotion and become president or something, and we have a new manager that, you know, and different personnel that kind of function differently. And the same thing can happen with, you know, the commissions. They change. You don't know what's going to happen, but it's a concern I have. I'm not sure what the solution is. I'm willing to listen to what some of my colleagues have to say about it, and I'll take some recommendations. I don't know, but I agree. But I support the rest of the changes. It's a good job.
Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I agree with my colleague, Councilmember Tesari's comments and Mr. O'Connor's comments regarding the officiating person on that, just on kind of question who that would be. The other thing is the cost of that. I know it's probably minimal, but there's got to be a cost to have an official come deal with that appeal. Is that something that is paid by the person that's appealing? I know that when there's an appeal for,
They have to pay an appeal fee.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So that fee is set to hopefully cost recover.
okay. The other thing that Mr. O'Connor brought up, which is a very good point, is under that section 20, it does say weeds, dirt, gravel, broken concrete, asphalt, decomposed granite, plastic sheathing, mulch, indoor outdoor carpet, or any similar materials are not acceptable landscaping or ground cover. I would strongly recommend that we remove mulch and decomposed granite. Even indoor outdoor carpet can be depending on what that is definition wise, that can sometimes be considered grass. If you get a low profile artificial turf, now is that turf? Some people do call it indoor outdoor carpet. So I don't know if there's a way to clarify that, but I think the thing with the mulch, I would absolutely, that and the decomposed granite, say that we need to remove those from the items that are not allowed. You're seeing a lot of people that are doing more drought tolerant. There's people that are doing different things to their front yard, like having trees in their front yard. I won't give you any addresses. Having trees in their front yard, and the rest of it's all mulch for kind of a small little orchard area, and that would be technically in violation of this. So I would be in favor of removing those from the not acceptable list. But other than that, I think this is great. I think this is very much needed. I thank you, Johnny, and your team for bringing these up. And thank you, Erica, for helping to assist in getting these taken care of. This is, like I said, something that's been needed, and we appreciate your work in this.
Is there any more discussion? All right. I have no comment. With that being said, would like to solicit a motion for the proposed recommended actions. However, before we do that, can we have the title of the ordinance read before we go in, and then we'll define what the motion's going to be.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Eastville, California, repealing Chapter 1.16, Administrative Hearings, adding a new Chapter 8.17, Administrative Citations and Fines, amending Chapter 8.18, Administrative Nuisance Abatement, and making other non-substantive edits to the Eastville Municipal Code.
Okay. With that, we'd like to solicit a motion.
I think before we get a motion, I mean, if there's any further discussion, or going back to Councilmember Tesari, are there any recommendations on from our colleagues on I'm forgetting, on a appeal officer,
the hearing officer.
Hearing officer.
If I may, so replacing the hearing officer with any other body, Brown Act body, is going to present the same problem because of the agenda requirements and noticing and all of that goes into, the lead up time. The only alternative I would recommend would be replacing references to the hearing officer with city manager or his designee. And so it will be handled in-house by the city, but the city manager can designate a particular person to do that. I wouldn't expect Ryan to do it personally, but city manager or designee is sort of the standard language we use in ordinances when it's something that's going to be handled by staff, and the city manager has the discretion to determine who on staff will do it.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If it goes out, if we go ahead and go forward with what's already in the existing, with the changes, what a process is there for an appeal above and beyond, or is that the final?
The appeal to the hearing officer is the final administrative remedy here. The remedy after that is to go to court.
Unless we designate otherwise, correct?
You could build in a second appeal if you wanted to yourself, to the city council. No. But that just stretches out, and again, it stretches out the time to get compliance.
Yeah, we end up with a whole meeting of nothing but appeals of citations.
Yeah.
No, I'm willing to accept the current amendments to the code, just with the knowledge that if we do start getting a lot of complaints,
we can
that
revisit.
we're gonna, All right. So with that, I would make a motion to approve as amended.
So as amended, just to clarify, it's the elimination of mulch and decomposed granite from that list in number 20.
Correct, with those conditions.
Second.
Councilmember Lorrimore?
Aye.
Councilmember Rigby?
Aye.
Councilmember Tesari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao?
Yes.
Mayor Plot?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We will now move to item 12.6, approve the purchase of additional driver feedback trailers, and this will be presented by Bill Hemsley.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Back in July, the City Council authorized the purchase of 5 of these feedback signs and 1 trailer. And this map shown on the board here shows where in the past there are 12 feedback signs that are stationed throughout the city that are permanently mounted with solar panels on them. Those are, and near schools, thank you. Those are shown in blue dots on this Eastville map. And then the existing locations of the 5 feedback signs that were purchased in July have been distributed throughout the city based on need. The mayor and Councilmember Rigby have met with community groups that express interest in looking at the speeds of vehicles in their communities. And so after the meetings, we would put these out here in various locations to evaluate the speeds and then get back with the community on possible mitigation measures. So last meeting, the mayor requested that we bring back for council consideration to purchase more of these feedback signs, which I'll show you in this slide, have been mounted on our street light poles, which are now the city property. And so they can be tied in electrically to the street lights, and then so they're powered that way, and they're fairly easy to mount. And there's two settings that can be set for these. One is in stealth mode, and the other is in display mode. And then there's also an option that come with these, a flashing strobe can be activated when they get to a certain speed over the speed limit. So it highlights their speed to them. And so over the last, this shows where we have placed them. Peach Blossom, Cabriolet, Lower Creek, based on needs in the community. And so the mayor had asked if we could purchase more of these so we can make them more permanent because of their effectiveness. This shows, it's hard to read, but the next slide shows you a summary. That this is on Peach Blossom in stealth mode, shows that of the vehicles that were traveling between 25 and 35, 48% slowed just on their own, going past this sign, that just probably seeing the sign. And then 53% slowed after the display was shown on the sign. So it does show that these signs have been effective, which is why the request came through to purchase more, to put them there permanently, more permanently, because they are effective. As just showing another location here. So the current locations where we have them, there's been some feedback from the community of cut through their neighborhood. So we placed 4 signs out there so we can look at that data. We have a community meeting on the 18th to go over those results. And we also did some counts with some turning movements on Schleichman Road related to that concern. So we are using them effectively, and so here is the options that we looked at for your consideration. If we purchase 5, the total price would be just under $25,000. There is a little bit of a reduction if we purchase 10 in the unit price, and that price would be $46,000, about $400. And so this is the recommendations. Be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Before we go into council comments, or first public comment and council comments, do we have any questions? Okay. Councilmember Lormore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question on the effectiveness in having the sign stationary as opposed to moving it. Is there, do people become accustomed to it and therefore it becomes less useful if you keep it in one spot too long?
That's a possibility, and we could look at that. One of the things that we could do is this data is collectible. The engineer's office has this data, so we can always make that accessible to anybody. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, then we could always move them around. It's easy to move them. It's a matter of having our contractor go out there and remove it and put it somewhere else, and we can bring it back at a later date if that's what's occurring.
So on that note, then, if it is easy to move them, how easy is it to take it down? Yes.
Our contractor used a bucket truck to install them.
Okay.
So they're up higher.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
I was going to say something, I'm not going to say it.
He's gonna put it in his kitchen.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I wanted to mention one other thing too. There's a pilot program that Fortel is asked us to be a part of, and it actually will. They put cameras in these, and it will look at license plates and then record the license plate with the speed. So if there's repeat offenders, we can have that information for future use too. So we've volunteered to be part of that trial.
Yeah, that actually would be very interesting to have. Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right, Mark, is there any public comments on this?
Yes, Mayor, we have one comment card from Keith White.
Mr. White, come on up.
Okay, excuse me, sorry. He has signs, okay. I understand we have to buy screws, but we should have one right here on Hamner. Because if you go on Hamner, right from Swan Lake, we have 3 accidents, if I believe I'm not correct, in the last 4 months, right from Swan Lake. And people are speeding down there. They're going through the red lights, okay? When I cross, or sometimes early in the morning, I have no choice to catch what's going that way. We need to have one here on Hamner. We need to get them to slow down on Hamner. You have kids walking, you have college kids going across the street. They're having to go across the street, the crosswalk, into the bus stop to go to college. We need to have one in Hamner. I understand that it depends on, but Hamner's such a busy street. People speed down the street. And actually, just so you guys know, my roommate actually got a ticket. And he was not even going that fast. He was just trying to go around slow person. He still got a ticket. And he had to pay $300. So we need something on Hamner. Because we have accidents in front of Swan Lake. Now, I don't even put him on the spot, sheriff. But I don't know how many there has been in the last 3 or 4 months, but I know there's been at least 4 that I know of since I moved to Eastville. So we need to look at something like that. Maybe get something over there. But if we can't get the cameras or something with the lights there, I would really appreciate that. Thank you. Just so they can stop it. This also will probably prevent accidents because people come from the bus way fast and all that, and they have come from the bus, and buses have had near misses quite a bit. Just so you guys know. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. You actually raised a question that I have, and I hope it's not a dumb question, but I know most of these signs are utilized just for neighborhoods, and it's very narrow streets, small streets. Since Hamner's such a large, would these signs work effectively on a street like Hamner? These type of functions, I think maybe
They can.
Okay,
They're a little
just-
smaller though. I mean, they make
Yeah.
ones that are larger for higher speeds, but I think you can still see them. We could try it.
Okay,
if
it
you'd
was,
like.
just something I thought, because I know most of them are using these
It's
for
just a matter of
inside
having
neighborhoods.
the place
Okay.
to mount them.
Okay. All right, with that, are there any comments? I'll start with Councilmember Larimore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last comment that was made before, well, okay, the fact that it was brought up about the pilot program for license plates. I don't know if that's a good thing. I would like to ask who keeps that, who has access to that information, and what happens if residents in the community want to come in, also have access to that information? Is that possible? I'm just concerned about the unintended consequences associated with this.
So we haven't done, we have to buy them first, so if that's something that you don't want to do, we don't have to do it. It's just,
Okay.
it was a request by the manufacturer asking if we would be wanting to be a sample agency.
Bill, I'm not comfortable with it, so please, let's not do that.
There you go. Direction given.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I understand that there are some people that like these, that possibility, but just want to make sure we're thinking about the possible different iterations of that. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Jasari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, did you say that these signs will have the little strobe on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes people think there's a camera. They really slow down. And these can also be used, we can, based on the data that's retrieved, we can consider other mitigation measures if the sign
Absolutely.
isn't slowing traffic.
Yes.
So, and 10, do you foresee us, or do you see you guys using 10 of these, or is that kind of overkill?
I mean, we would put them to use if you want. I mean, there's definitely the requests that are out there, but I mean, we could always get more later, if you wanted to.
Well, I don't have a problem getting them. I just, don't want them getting put somewhere and sitting, because we're just not utilizing them. I want to see them out there if we get them.
There are a lot of requests out there.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. If you think we're going to use them, do you want 10? Is that what you guys would prefer?
Well, I guess once we get them up, then it takes care of the issue, at least for that time. So, I mean, we're happy to get them out there for you if you'd like them. So,
yeah. All right. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you. Just to go back to the camera thing with those, that information would go to the manufacturer?
well, I think what it is, I don't know. They just mentioned this to me about 5 o'clock today, and so obviously I should have talked to the city manager first.
Yeah.
So I don't know much detail on it.
I think it's worth looking into.
I think the way it happens is it goes up to the cloud, So we would be able to download that.
I think it would be.
Todd, it's a liability issue that we do not, the information is not controlled by the law enforcement agency, and so.
Okay, that was my question, is how
so-
is that different than the cameras? If it's only controlled by law enforcement, then I would be, but if it's not, then yeah.
It's completely different, and this is
Okay.
not appropriate to be bringing before city council.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
for that. Yeah.
I do have a couple of questions and concerns. One, I'm not a huge fan of these signs because you see a car go by and you see it 25, and then when I'm out there running, it says like 5 or 6 or something like that. So it's kind of depressing for me. I know, the truth hurts sometimes. No, but it just helps me improve and realize I need to keep running, so.
You should be happy it picks you up, man.
I know. Well, half the time it's not. I'm thinking it's on the stealth mode. But no. All jokes aside, I'm totally in favor of these. I think they're great. I would say that I don't think it would be good for us to put permanent locations on these because then we'll run into issues of residents thinking that they are permanent, and then all of a sudden you have one. Why don't I have one? Now I want one. Now I want one. This way we say that they're just temporary. We don't have a length of how long that temporary is. It could be a week. It could be a year. But I think we need to leave them as being able to move them around and not put them in one location and say that's a permanent location for that one. So I would propose that we do keep them as a temporary fixture to wherever we put them. What is the cost roughly? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just roughly the cost to remove and install one in a different location.
About $250.
Okay, so very minimal. So, yeah, I think especially with that, I think it's worth moving them around according to the needs. The other thing is we have a lot of good data that was shared. What is the data? I know that the city sees it. Can you maybe just share with us a little bit of what we do with that data that's recorded?
So like for the Devonshire neighborhood, for the meeting, we'll share that with the community. Okay, here's what speeds are. Here's like the top speeds that we recorded. Here's the average speed. Here's the 85th percentile speed. So then they can see like if this information, is it reflective of what they think it is, or is it just a perception problem? Because I mean, if the speeds are right at the 29, 30 mile an hour and a 25, you can hardly even give a ticket for that. But so it just shows what the problem is. It identifies it, and then if it is a high speed, then it gives us another. Maybe the sheriffs can go out there and maybe hit the area a little bit more than they have been. So it just gives us a tool to be able to do other things with it.
And with those, is there a regular, I guess, data collection on there? Like, is it once a month you look at it, or is it just
so
whenever
typically,
necessary?
Yeah, it's for our neighborhood meeting, we put it out there. We'll have it out there for a couple weeks beforehand. We'll download the data before the meeting and then share that with them. But it's on as needed, so we go out there, and then we can also provide that to whoever puts a request in that is interested in that. So, and we just archive that in on the drive.
I would recommend it. I know it may be a lot of work, or not a lot of work, but maybe a little bit extra work, but especially with us doing more of these, of actually putting them to use. Not only putting them up, but if we set a regular schedule of once a month that the data is collected and the data is shared with the sheriff's department, and then they can decipher what they want to do. I just think it would be useful for us to say, hey, we're doing our due diligence of giving it to the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department says, nope, that's not within the range that, we're going to cite for that area. That's up to them, but I don't think should really be up to us to make that decision. I think it's up to us to give the information to the sheriff's department, let them handle it however they want. They're the traffic professionals, or speed professionals. You guys are the traffic professionals. Both of you are the traffic
We'd be happy
professionals.
to do that. Yeah.
Just stop now.
Thank you, Bill, for the presentation.
Sure.
Real quick, on the last time we did this, how many signs did we purchase?
Last time we did 5.
It was 5,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, they're great. I think they're so effective. That's kind of why we want to bring it up, because there's just more requests. And I think part partly, I think it's part of the neighborhood watch program. I think it's might have caused this, right, to come up, but they're very effective. They're very cost effective as well. And so it's a good solution to the issue. I think we just need to reiterate when there are these complaints and we do have a solution that we do, not everyone's gonna know, not everyone's gonna attend these meetings, but that when the people are there, we just need to clarify that these are temporary. And again, that's, I know that message is not gonna get, passed on to everyone else, but I think it's definitely valuable to have more. As far as quantity, I think you'll leave it to the colleagues aside. And actually, kind of a random thought with these. Does it also calculate how many cars, just number of cars passing by?
Yeah.
One thing we could look at when we're evaluating how busy a road is in a day, we're not using it for speeding, we're using it just to like evaluate bike lanes, trails. Measure 2 going each way, have it sit there for a month and see how much traffic we're actually getting. We're just pure raw data. So it's something we can use for projects when we're determining, if we're doing a trail system or a bike system. Let's get the real information. How many cars are actually going through here? Just kind of a thought when we're looking at it. We could use that for that. Just kind of a random thought.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm all for this. I'll just kind of leave it up for further discussion as far as which way we want to go, if that is the case, we want to do this. So I'll just leave it up for further discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question for law enforcement. With seeing these, do you see, there's the 5 proposal or the 10 proposal with complaints that you're seeing regarding speeding in certain areas. Is there a recommendation that you would have over 1?
I would say the 10 would be more beneficial, just because of the number of areas that we get complaints on.
They can stay longer in one area. If we have 10, they're gonna move around a lot more if we only have 5.
If there's no further discussion, I would motion for approval of 10 of those.
Second.
Sorry, was there a motion in a second?
Yeah, it was Joe motion, Todd second? Todd motion and Joe second.
Okay. Councilmember Lorimore?
Aye.
Councilmember Rigby?
Aye.
Councilmember Tesari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yao?
Yes.
Mayor Plot?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, we're at the tail end of our meeting now, and we'll go to city manager reports and city staff reports.
We anticipate a new planning manager will begin in early March. We had great recruitments, and Gina's elated about this, to give her some support in planning for current and future planning projects. It's not public yet. We are conducting interviews for accounting manager position over the next couple of weeks, and to support Amanda in the finance department. I might just say, Amanda put in some long weekends getting that mid-year budget. She came up to speed really quickly on the budget and has added a lot of value to our finance team, and just making sure the procedures and the documentation and her spreadsheets are so automated that they almost drive themselves now. So in a continued effort to streamline customer service, we have installed new signage in our lobby for city services and building safety. So when you walk in, if you're getting a water heater permit or a solar permit, you go to the building safety, and for all other city services, there's another person at the counter. Just to kind of clarify, when our front counter is often a very busy place. And during the past fiscal year, the city clerk's office processed over 500 passport applications. That means our residents are traveling the world and getting to experience the rest of the world. So that's awesome. It's a great service. And our Saturday passport days that we do are an amazing, well-attended event from our residents. But if you want to schedule an appointment, you can come in Monday through Thursday and get your passports as well. So if you're planning a summer vacation, now's the time to get your passport taken care of. Also, take care of your real ID before the end of October or October 1st. But we don't do that here. You have to go to the DMV. So I hear if you get there by 7 in the morning, you might get out by 7:45. Located in the Eastville Marketplace, Griddle Mongolian Grill had their soft opening on February 9th. They served approximately 420 customers on their opening day and continue to attract large crowds daily. Grill your choice of delicious noodles and rice with their secret sauce and wide variety of veggies, meats, and fresh ingredients. They are open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. A ribbon cutting ceremony will be held toward the end of the month, date to be announced soon. But we're really excited to have another ethnic restaurant in our community. And pending final inspection with building safety, AT&T Wireless plans to open this Friday at the station. So if you want to change your cell phone service or buy a new phone, AT&T Wireless will be open in the station. Staybridge Suites hotel plans are in plan check, so we're very excited. Our 4.5-star rooftop bar, conference and event center, best hotel in Western Riverside County will be opening once we get those plan checks approved. We are happy to announce Cosecha San Diego. So if you don't have Valentine's plans yet, and you're in your last minute and there's no one else has a reservation, you might get one of the last tickets at Cosecha San Diego by Chef Steve Brown. Will be returning to Eastville on Valentine's Day. Cosecha SD will be hosting a unique 9-course A5 Japanese Wagyu and true Kobe tasting menu dinner experience for our community and others throughout the region to enjoy. This one-night event will be a great experience to share with your loved one. The event will take place on February 14th. If you haven't ordered your flowers or your cards or done your something special for your loved one, this is your 2-day warning. From 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Eastville Estate located at 13200 Citrus Street. Purchase your tickets online by visiting our website at Cosecha San Diego. And then I have one more that was just text to me. Jim Yule will be from Breaking the Chains will be coming over the next couple months to help strengthen our purpose-driven and mission and engage the team. Organizational health continues to be an important focus for our city, and we continue to build strong leaders on our team, as has been evident by all the people that have been stepping up in many great ways to serve our residents and businesses. So we're excited about him helping us find our mission and purpose to better serve our residents and unite our teams. With that, I think he just handed out a book called The Hard Hat, which we will be reading. So if you're looking for a good leadership book, I'm anticipating that to be a good read this weekend. So, and with that, that's the end of city manager comments.
Thank you, Brian, for that report. We'll now move to city council communication and committee reports, and we will start with the league.
Okay, couple things with the league. Earlier this week, we had our division meeting for Riverside, for the Riverside division. And that's why I missed the Neighborhood Watch captain's meeting earlier. I know. I told them they need to check with me first before they set these meetings.
We apologize. We absolutely
They don't.
apologize.
No, not you guys. I'm talking about them. Anyway, while out there, actually had the opportunity. Also sitting on the board is Lisa Middleton, who sits on the CalPERS board. And so it was a good opportunity to sit and chat. One of the items that came up was in relation to SB 50, and that has to do with density and housing. And that failed barely after numerous tries to get that through the legislature. That was put forward by Senator Wiener, but that is not the end of the bill. We all know this. There is a big push by the state this year to go in that direction, and so that is not the last that we've heard of this bill. the league continues to remain engaged on this issue. I'm gonna pass this around up here. These are, changing gears also within the league. There are 3 different options that want to change the logo. And so it goes, there's the black and white version and the color version on the top. Those are the final 3 options that they've come down to. I'd love to get your feedback because I'm going to be at a board meeting for the league next week. And that's going to be taking place in Sacramento. I personally feel that all of these new logos are worse than the current logo, but it's c'est la vie, and we'll, if anybody in the audience is interested, we'll love to get your feedback as well. So that takes care of the league. You want me to jump into SCAG? Please do. Yeah.
Real quick, if I can, I had the opportunity to attend a league policy meeting on the 23rd for the community services. Just a quick update on that. We talked about something good for us to think about in our 2040, but we talked about the master plan for aging that is being done by the state. Just to include, it's all inclusive, so it's not just, they call them aging, not the seniors. They call them aging adults, but it's all inclusive of going back to what Mr. White mentioned about people with disabilities, people with inclusive of everyone for the master plan of aging, and it was a very good presentation. Also talked about kind of what the priorities are for the community services policy group for the year, really focusing on child development programs as well as library facilities and things to do with libraries, and also just overall talking about youth. And one of the big topics with a lot of the league policy committees has been, and with a lot of just government issues, has been around homelessness. So that's a big focus, but it was more of a focus on the cause of homelessness and focusing on youth rather than focusing on services of homelessness. So just a quick update from that.
WRCOG. WRCOG. Oh, still, oh, that's right, we jumped. SCAG.
We just had our regional council meeting earlier, I guess it was last Thursday. And we had the pleasure of having the High Speed Rail Authority CEO, Brian P. Kelly, so the train to nowhere, as many people like to call it. He came in and spoke to us at SCAG. And SCAG engaged with the High Speed Rail with an MOU a number of years back in order to, because Southern California realized the train was never going to get here, went through and said, hey, we realize Northern California is benefiting from this. As a show of good faith, will you enter into this MOU that at least $1 billion of the multiple billions of dollars that are coming in will come to Southern California? And the High Speed Rail Authority said, yes, as long as we get your support, we'll do that. And SCAG knew that this was moving ahead anyway, so entered into this MOU for the $1 billion. Half of that has come, and we likely will not see the other half. And this was a question that was brought up and asked of the CEO from the Rail Authority. He's a very nice guy, and he knew the question was coming. But there are also, of course, ongoing monies that this region, Southern California, looks for. And this is actually a great lead into something that I'm going to discuss later with RCTC. But so he came and spoke. That took place on Thursday. As of, as you all know, I wear many hats over at SCAG due to my position as second vice president there. One of those is the fundraising committee. We are up to $100,000 now, which is good. And so if you haven't signed up yet, that's going to be taking place beginning of May. Last year we had all council members and a couple of public or some of our commissioners attend. and some city staff, and we can at least do as well. And so part of the reason for this fundraising is that it makes it so those dollars don't have to come from taxpayers to go towards this General Assembly that we're going to be having. But that concludes my report on SCAG. And I'll be up in Sacramento as well next week with SCAG for 2 days for a legislative fly-in.
Thank you, Councilmember Lormore. And we'll go to WRCOG.
Let's see. TUMF revenues were approximately $64 million, which is the most it's collected since 2007. Good example. Yeah. Good barometer for the strength of the economy right now. The WRCOG Fellowship Program, beginning in fiscal year 2021, it's going to be a 50-50 split. So any city that wants to use a fellow from WRCOG, they're going to have to pick up 50% of the cost. We had a Western Community Energy update that I'll allow Councilman Rigby to do that. We had there's been a lot of stuff on the internet about the new water laws and the restrictions on how many gallons you can use, and I know it's been going around, you can't shower and do the laundry in the same day. And they had somebody come in and their job was to debunk these myths, and they said that it's not true, and it isn't. Statutorily, according to the law, it does not say in there that you cannot use more than 55 gallons a day. What it does is it restricts water districts for their usage. And what they do is people that are putting this stuff out there about not being able to shower and do the laundry, they're extrapolating down to what's going to happen, because when these water districts are in violation because their water usage is above what the state mandate is, they will obviously have to impose restrictions on the ratepayers or the consumers. And they figured it out that what'll happen is, to meet those requirements, basically your household will be limited to 55 gallons a day. So that's where the myths come from. But as of right now, that's not going to happen for several years down the road, and who knows what's going to happen legislatively between now and then. So don't worry about your water usage getting restricted right now.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for clarifying that too. So appreciate that. RTA, which I'll have Keith talk about the new Route 4, which will be going through Eastville. So Keith, if you'd like to, he comes prepared.
All right, just let you guys know, I sent Omnitrans meeting, you guys should have a copy of the new route map for you guys. 2 hours and a half long. Omnitrans will be starting in September 2020 to Massachusetts Bay, one of our bus stops. It's gonna come from Shafee College all the way down Philadelphia, Ontario Ranch and all that, which is our next door neighbor. That's one thing. And then, that'll be Route 87. And then, whoops, hold on, my notes on my phone here. There we go. RC Now chapter is going to have a total of 7 events this year. The very first will be Norco Horse Week Parade, April 18th, and normally have a trolley being a parade. So I was there last year, and then, sorry, my phone's acting up. And then the next one, just so you know, we also have our neighborhood watch that we get together, not neighborhood watch, neighborhoods get together.
National Night Out.
Thank you, National Night Out. I knew there was a word for it.
Yeah.
So, and then also Corona, Sudash, I'm in contact with Sudash from Corona Public Transportation. They're doing a COA, a comprehensive operation analyst, due to they are having low ridership, and they're not having the riders like they used to have. So that's an issue with Corona having those issues. But that's it for right now. And then RCTC will also be at the T-Now group, talk about traffic relief plans to relieve traffic. So that's supposed to happen in March 12th. Thank you.
All right. I'll pick up one too. I'll pick up the Route 4 real quick. So So Route 4, the work, we just did a presentation last month on the Route 4 project, which will go through Eastville through basically coming in through Corona through River Road into Archibald, and then making its way down to Limonite. But that particular project, when it is set to go, we will have actually free ridership for a while. They're going to test pilot to see how many how many people are going to be using this and kind of get the information for it. This is for Omnitrans, yeah. So yeah, that'd be for 3 weeks. Thank you. So just kind of throwing it out there. Feel free if you want to. The buses are actually awesome. If you haven't gone on an RTA bus, they are beautiful buses inside, and they're clean. They're awesome. They have Wi-Fi hookup, everything you need. So, and it's got USB as well. So thank you. All right, thank you, Keith, for that as well. Western Community Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We met today and sure. And had a very good, productive meeting. One of the things that was approved is our very first power purchase, which Councilmember Tisarno is sharing a board, if he can get it to stand up there. Thank you, sir. But we had our very first power purchase. And the exciting thing with that is it came in way under budget. And with one of the concerns that we all had with WCE was the savings that we were going to get. And everyone was like, well, this is a projected savings. What happens if things come over budget? And so when you start to see things come under budget, when you're implementing a new program, it's very exciting, which just goes to help our continued savings. So this is going to be rolled out in Eastville. We're on the second phase. We will be implemented in the second phase. The first phase is a couple of the other cities that are part of this. And then since we're have one of the larger customer bases, we'll be on the second phase, which will be in May. You will start seeing in end of March, April, you'll start to see notices in your mail that they're required to give you a notice, 2 different notices before this is implemented. This is an automatic in, it is an opt-out. In March, I believe the first council meeting in March, WRCOG representatives, also WCE staff, will be here to give a presentation and to answer any questions. I would highly recommend that if you have any questions regarding WCE, that you come then. One of the statistics they shared with us today was regarding the notices that were sent out for these other cities that were just sent out, and then the opt-out rate. The opt-out rate is fairly low, and when they get people to opt out, they ask them, okay, why are you opting out? The highest one opt-out reason, which is basically because I don't like that I was put into it. And that is, I questioned that. I said, why do you like that we aren't giving you that we are giving you a savings? It just doesn't make sense to me. So I would encourage you, if you have any questions about this, feel free to contact me. I'd love to chat with you, share any information about this. If you are thinking of possibly opting out, I would strongly encourage that you wait until you talk to me and or the WCE staff to give their presentation. This board here has some frequently asked questions, has some information, has a business card that has the WCE customer service phone number on there, as well as the FAQ, where you can get the FAQs there. It's a great program. I'm looking forward to it, and it's awesome to see the savings that we are getting. It is roughly, last thing on this, it is roughly right now a 2% savings, and we're hoping that it'll increase not only the savings, but it will also provide additional programs that we'll be able to provide the customers. 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at our region, 2% savings that can be put back into our region with all these customers adds up quite a bit. So,
Thank you. And their FAQ, that FAQ platform, it's all video too, right? There's not even.
I think this one's a little bit of both.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of videos, and I think we have one of our staff members that was on one of the videos. So
She did. All right, we'll do vector control, mosquitoes. All right, RCTC.
Thank you. Yeah, we had our annual planning meeting took place at the end of January, and it actually spanned 2 days. There was a lot of information shared, but we also had a lot of things that came in front of us, including a question about the whether or not Hamner Bridge was going to happen. And so the Hamner Bridge, as you know, it's, well, maybe you don't know, it's a very expensive bridge to build. 61.6 million is going into that, a lot of it coming from the feds. There was a shortfall of $33.4 million due to a bureaucratic snafu between, well, Washington DC, Sacramento, and then over to the county. So the money would have eventually gotten here, but not within the time frame necessitated by SB 132 that said that the bridge had to be built by a certain date. So there was, thankfully, RCTC does have the money and is loaning the money to for this project to move forward, and it will be paid back by the state. This all comes back to the feds supplying in a lump sum to the state having a bridge fund in a state of, you know, over 40 million people, $300 million, I think it was, for the entire state every year, and then how they allocate that. The long and the short of it is it's not enough money just within 3 projects within our immediate area. That dollar amount of the annual allocation towards this bridge program is sucked up. With 300 sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but not when we're talking about major infrastructure projects. So long and the short of it, our neighbor to the south, Norco, myself, our county supervisor, banded together and emphasized the importance of this bridge, and we collectively came out with a unanimous support and a loan of this so that the project will continue to move forward. So it was a good day, $33.4 million loan for something that we thought that we already had the money for. So, RCTC.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the story behind it too. So we like the details. RCA. Oh, did you feel it? RCA.
Yeah, I was out of town for the last meeting. I know we can probably pull it up and find species
You want
of
me
the
to come back
month.
on that species of the month then?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. JCSD Parks Commission.
We haven't met. There's a meeting next week, I believe. Yeah.
Next Thursday.
So next Thursday is a meeting.
Finance Committee, we meet next Tuesday. So, all right, I'll start to my left on City Council Communications.
Thank you. Just a couple quick items. I forgot to say this is going to be at the front desk. So off to the side, if you have any questions, you want to see it. We'll also probably, I would imagine, share it on our social media too. Just wanted to quickly say thank you to staff for the 65th Street workshop. Thank you for putting that on. Thank you for handling that and doing a good job with that. I know that it got excited, we'll say, but I appreciate all you guys did in handling that the way you did. I had a resident that reached out to me about, we've seen the last little while, we've seen a few more grow houses in the city, and it's something that we're well aware of. We're working with law enforcement to see what we can do to combat that. But I had a resident that reached out to me about one. I forwarded that information on to Lieutenant Martin, and within a short amount of time that it was taken care of. So I just wanted to say thank you. Not to say that grow houses get taken care of real quickly. It's a long process, but I appreciate what they're doing on those, and I appreciate the follow-up. The resident was very appreciative, so thank you for doing that and taking care of that. We had a meeting scheduled to meet with Serafina and that regarding the parking on Oakdale, that was postponed. We have also let Serafina know, and the residents in that area. And I have spoken with the city manager that we're trying to see if we can get something on a future agenda. We aren't sure exactly when, but we're gonna try and get something on a future agenda with, I would imagine with the council's consensus to get that brought back to the council. Unless anyone's opposed to that. So thank you. Real quick, just to touch on one of the comments that was made in public, or in public comment regarding the closure of Estancia to the ERHS students. It's getting late. I'm sorry, I have it written right here, but I just can't read it. But I have a meeting. We have a Eastville Schools meeting tomorrow, and I will bring that up with them. And see if there's anything that can come from, because I know one of them was, one of the questions was about a driveway at the parking for the high school there. But I will be sure to pass that information on to the school district when we meet tomorrow. Just as a reminder, I know one of the other questions was, or comments today was regarding Airbnbs. Just for everyone's information, Airbnbs are illegal in the city of Eastville. If you know of one, if you see one, if you hear of one, make sure you let us know, let our community enhancement and safety know, and they will look into it. The last thing that I just wanted to share was thank you to city staff that was able to help us with our Neighborhood Watch Captains meeting on Monday night, and to everyone that participated in it. Thank you, Johnny, for being there and giving your presentation and sharing information. It was a very good and productive meeting. Just a little bit of background and insight, and the mayor can expand on this also, but our idea behind the Neighborhood Watch program was never to implement it and to just let it go, or to keep it at the same of where it's at. It was always to continue to improve it. And this is what we call, what we talked about on Monday was what we call the Neighborhood Watch 2.0. So we're basically taking the Neighborhood Watch program and continuing to add to it and elevating it. So that's where we're at. If you want more information about that, you can ask your Neighborhood Watch captains or Brandon, Don, or myself, and we'd be more than happy to share more information about that. But it'll continue to help our neighborhood, just a little bit of insight. It's a little bit more tracking and making sure that your community, that your neighborhood is active rather than just a Neighborhood Watch program. This is making your community a little bit more active in the community. So that's all I have.
Good. Mayor Pro Tem Yao.
So the species of the month, it's actually not that exciting this time around. It's a little mouse tail. It sounds like an animal, but it's actually a plant. A very tiny plant. No, it only grows up to about 12 centimeters tall, which I don't know how many feet that is. But it is a native to it's native to California, and you can generally find them from April to May. So it's a tiny, oh, there we go. The city clerk making it happen. That's a tiny little plant. It's called mouse tail, but it's actually a plant. With that being said, so yes, you're welcome. So I know my colleagues have mentioned the Captain Watch meeting. That was great. Good. You guys did a fantastic job along with Dawn. And then also I took part in the census count. The census meeting. I'm confusing that with the point in time count. It's been late. It's really late. So the census meeting that took place a week ago, we were able to meet with the census rep, and we are forming a complete count committee in the city of Eastville, and that will. Yeah, I think I'm allowed to announce it, but we're kicking it off tomorrow morning, actually here at the city hall, and then also the point in time count that took place a week and a half ago. We had a total count of 4 homeless folks in the city of Eastville, and we were able to interview 2 of them, but not the other 2. So there's that, and then also the following week, a lot of things happening, and I do want to give everyone a heads up. I am not going to be here at the next city council meeting. I have to go to the East Coast for a work trip. So I want to take this chance to list all the events that I'll be going to for the next 2 weeks, in case you want to look for me or join me. Again, we have the Complete Count Committee kickoff tomorrow, and then we have the school committee meeting tomorrow as well. This weekend we have Eastville Girls Softball. It's the start of the season at 8 a.m. on Saturday at McCune Park. And we also have Friends of the Library. They're having a book sale on February 22nd. And I'll be in Dallas for a P3 conference that will hopefully benefit our city library as we're planning for it. So thinking about partnership, public-private partnership. Yeah, it's a national conference that's taking place in Dallas. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, actually, there's a couple of them I was going to announce, but now you guys all left me with just one thing to discuss. I'm gonna throw this out there because it's something I've been working on for quite some time and didn't know how to present it, and now I think it's got some legs where I'm just gonna throw it as a tickler out there. There's a project that I've been working on with a gentleman named Matt Olson, who is an incredible human being. We're very close friends. We do a lot of CrossFit competitions together every once in a while, or do a Spartan race and whatnot. And he's just an incredible human being who battled Hodgkin's lymphoma, overcame it. The guy was in the middle of training with me. He was in his 6th round of chemo. And anybody who don't know him, he's just an incredible human being. He got an amazing story. And he's one of the projects that an idea that he came up, and we're trying to figure out how we refine it, was how do we create a network of community and do it through fitness. And so we just started kind of bouncing it off and kind of just dumbing it down, simplifying it. And we finally came up with a slogan that set it off, and the slogan's Just Move. It's going to be the Just Move campaign. And the idea of the Just Move campaign, and we're working out the details, is a workout in the city at one of our parks once a month. And it's a very non-intimidating. I wish Keith was here. You can be disabled, old, young, no matter what shape or size. You can be pregnant, absolutely. You don't have. If you're gonna do a push-up, you can do push-ups like this, totally appropriate, right? So, it's kind of a setup of an hour workout. It's a family-based workout or a team workout, and you compete that team workout together. So if the total is 100 push-ups, you break 100 push-ups within your team members. If it's air squats, then we'll teach you how to modify it and make it real simple if you can't do one. But the idea is connecting your community together through your parks. And not only that, but doing it through the thing that I love is fitness, right? So, and he's just an awesome person. He obviously likes that as well. And I think this is going to be something that'll be very special. It'll be something very unique that is specific to Eastville. It'll be the city's thing, like our thing that we do. And it's just something that this is what we do once a month at a park. And we get it. And honestly, I want to see 500 people there. I know that probably first round won't be that way, but I think we can do it. I really do. And I think once that gets out, and the best thing is you start to meet people that you never met. You start to get out. Kids, there's going to be kids leading the workouts, right? Very simple stuff. And kids that know how to lead the workout. So it's going to be a great thing. I think it's okay to announce it. Again, we're still working out some of the kinks. Obviously, we're trying to set a goal to have our first workout in May, but we want to get people out there, everyone out there. We're going to have all different types of people, and it's very extremely simple. We're going to have 4 cones. Those are going to be stations, and we're going to have a workout. It's going to be all calisthenics type stuff, very basic, not intimidating. So we'll have videos out. Be good, Joe. You're coming out, but it's going to be a good time. So just want to share that, and it's something we're working on. It's something that's kind of more dear to my heart, and something I think that I'm very passionate about. So that's what I am.
Mayor, maybe we can bring the video that he shared with us at the next council meeting.
The 1 minute video we showed, or do you want us? There's another video he did. It's a 3 minute that actually tells a story. It's pretty incredible.
We can probably do that.
Yeah. I think it's 3 minutes. It's a 3 minute video. Yeah, I'll ask him to come in. He'll be more than glad to come in, but he doesn't need a microphone. His voice is louder than you can imagine. So, but with that, is there anything else? Or?
I sure hope that it's okay to announce it, because you and Mayor Pro Tem Yao both said I think it's okay to announce these 2 things. So public record, it's okay to announce these things, right?
Yeah.
If not, they're announced. It won't go live till tomorrow anyways, right?
There you go. There you go. That's awesome. Well, thank you again for attending, for sticking out with us. We definitely went late tonight. Our next meeting is on February 26th at 6:30 PM, and this meeting is adjourned.